Should be on. Let's switch it up a little bit.
Have you seen this? FBI uncovers creepy home biolab packed with mystery vials in Vegas raid. Let me read. This is from Mario Nawfal's site, and then I looked.
All right.
It's real. FBI agents stormed Las Vegas residence, discovering refrigerators stuffed with
Of
unlabeled
course.
vials of unknown liquid, suggesting a clandestine biological operation. The property links to J.B. Zhu, a Chinese national already facing charges for flooding the market with unapproved COVID and HIV test kits. This raid echoes his prior California fiasco, where authorities found pathogen labels for Ebola and tuberculosis alongside 1,000 neglected mice. Source: Futurism. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I did. And they're saying the CDC has gone in and
Super
tested some of their
bad.
stuff, and they found 20 different things inside these little vials. And they're saying they found HIV,
Oh my
TB,
gosh.
that there
What?
was one fridge or something that had like a sticker on the outside that said Ebola. So it's a little crazy.
Well, I
Very
mean,
concerning.
so, I mean, you're spun up on the Homeland plot. Could this, I mean, it says Chinese national, which is not generally what you cover, but I mean, but when I interviewed our mutual friend Jane, she was talking about biological weapons that were being developed in caves. And then she actually didn't even want to go too in depth on how nasty that stuff was, because she didn't want to create a fear campaign, you know?
Yeah.
So
And
could this be?
that's a complicated thing. So, at least from the ones the CDC has put out, it does not match up with the ones in Al Qaeda's labs. So, Al Qaeda's labs, it's like sarin, anthrax, modified fentanyl. And that's at least not been any of the ones from this house. So, I do believe Al Qaeda has similar type of things on US soil, but I have not seen anything to say that is an Al Qaeda one. But yeah, I'd be very concerned because one of Al Qaeda's is in Nevada.
One of what?
Al Qaeda's is in, like, one of their labs is in Nevada.
Holy shit. How do you know that?
Because obviously we've been collecting on the plot and we heard about it.
Where are the other
Oh.
labs? How many labs are there?
So I don't know how many labs there are total, and not every lab has a chemical in it. That one does. Some labs are just to make like a suicide vest or IEDs, but unfortunately, some of the bombs do have chemical components. One is just the fact that some of them are using chemicals as the detonator. So they're binary. So, you know, like a glow stick. So there's a chemical in the vest and there's a chemical in a syringe, for example. You insert the syringe, the two chemicals mix together, it starts the detonation. So some bombs start that way. The best example is the aviation plot bombs. And then, unfortunately, Al Qaeda is also saying they put a caustic chemical in some of these bombs. So, like, let's say they set it off on a subway. So if you don't die from the explosion, you will die from whatever this caustic chemical
Holy
is
shit.
if you don't get airflow quick enough.
Wow.
And that's why we don't want to alarm people, because when you start talking chemicals,
That's frightening
people very
and
scared.
also fucking genius.
No.
I mean, unfortunately, I mean, to just have that kind of contingency plan for the people that are just victims and not dead victims, not KIA'd. I mean,
and remember, now it's then a hazmat situation, so law enforcement can't
they
immediately
can't even get
respond.
there.
Most cities don't even really have any kind of hazmat response. So now you delay the entire emergency response too, which is also very smart.
What are you doing in the city still?
Where'd that
Are
come
you
from?
nuts?
I don't really live in a city.
Okay, I mean, I've never
Everyone
been.
kind of knows where I live, so does it really matter what house I live in?
But man, have you been tracking this Epstein stuff?
I mean, I've been reading these people know. I haven't been going into the mock-up. Did you see there's a whole mock-up Gmail? It's genius.
A what?
So someone made this website, it's like jmail.com, and you can sign in like you're in his account, and you can scroll through emails as they're dated, go through the photos. It's all an exact copy.
Are you shitting?
Yeah, so you can search your emails, so you can type like the name you're looking for, and it'll pull the emails. Yeah, so it's a whole exact copy of it. It's really interesting.
What is this? Where is this?
So just this copy of Epstein's Gmail.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Really creative.
So what stuff you're seeing in there? What are you seeing? I've seen a lot.
I know. I mean, I've seen a lot. The one issue, as you know, is people who collect intelligence. Not everything we see is true. There's obviously people flagging me on the terrorism stuff. Like, he put out one, and it says, Turkey is supporting al-Nusra Front. That was 2015. You knew that in 2012. So he's saying real factual things in a lot of cases that are in the public at the time, but a lot of people are thinking all these secrets, and it's like, guys, he's rambling on to every single person about world events, and so, but then they think he's a decision maker on those world events. Another one in the same email, he brings up ISIS and how the U.S. kind of didn't do anything against ISIS. And went after, remember in Palermo when they were antiquities? Remember there was one of these famous archaeologists, and they took him because they had hidden some of them, and he refused to give up a location. So anyway, it was horrible, big news. U.S. never went in and did anything, so he brought up how they did then. But then there's the context. In 2013, we had no ISIS strategy. We all know this. Remember, Obama told the CIA, I don't want to hear about ISIS. So when CIA was set as presidential scale for Obama, like, they would not include anything of ISIS. So people forget what was happening in real time. So now they're like, well, you were ISIS. Like, no, we just had no strategy. The president didn't give a damn about them. So there are a lot of things missing in context. I think the thing that matters most, though, is
Dude.
they have plenty of evidence.
Oh. Such a different pace.
What do you make of this shit, though? That feels, I mean, it dropped, and I mean, I felt like I was in an algorithm fucking jail, because it was every, still is.
I feel like this is like
single person
character on methamphetamines.
kids, and this person got an STD and gave it to his wife and wanted some magic fucking antibiotic to slip her. Bill
Which is-
Gates. But,
Back again?
But it's-
She should get more money for her divorce.
yeah,
for
no
that.
shit.
I'm
But-
serious. That's
But
the
what, I
first
mean,
thing
what do
said.
you make of it? Like,
I mean-
so I've asked you ever since you started coming on the show. I've been asking you, what do you think about these Epstein files? And I think it gets into, I think it gets into why we were maybe in the Middle East. Some of the stuff with Iran that's going on. I mean, it's looking more and more. I don't even know what to call it other than fucking blackmail. Does it make you question any of the stuff that you've been told or that you're diving into about? I mean, you're hard. I fucking hate Iran too. I hate them too. I don't think we should be interfering right now because of all this shit. I mean, does this make you think any different about Middle East policy and what's going on over there and who's
Oh, it's
really
too long.
pulling all the strings?
Well, if you read Epstein's files, the person pulling the strings is Cutter. I mean, Cutter's referenced 2,000 times in it. So I think people are choosing the ones they want to read and highlighting those, if that makes sense, instead of understanding so Cutter
Jeez.
in control of the Middle East, right? That's the
So hold
problem.
on. What does it say? What does it say?
Well, it's like one of the main principles of policy. But the thing is, people
So
are
was the
making...
former prime minister of fucking
I know.
Israel.
Well, that's the thing. So the problem with this that people are not understanding is, unfortunately, the elites are extremely corrupt. So I've known this for a long time. So none of this is surprising to me. Like, you stay away from the elites because they are not good people. They're in the positions they are in because they're corrupt. They commit these crimes. They're involved in child trafficking. They're involved in corruption. Like, I have always viewed these people this way, if that makes sense. So to me, this is that universe. So for them to act like, oh, Jeffrey Epstein is like blackmailing them all and controlling them, these people do this every day of their life, Sean. You didn't need Jeffrey Epstein to like lure them into the club. They're doing it in other locations too. Now that gets ignored completely. You're not just doing it on Jeffrey Epstein's
Now, I
island.
would not disagree with you
They're
on
doing
that.
it in the Middle East. They're doing it in Thailand.
That doesn't mean
doing
they're
it,
on camera.
But
We're on the other places that they go. They're all on fucking camera here.
I just think that it's way more common, unfortunately, than people realize. And I don't actually think it's really a blackmail. I think these things would influence money, relationships. Like a lot of people are his friends. So I think everybody's calling it an intelligence operation. None of these documents show that at all. First off, no. Have you seen proof that he is an asset for an entire organization?
I have not seen 100%.
No, people's assumptions. Even there's a picture. He's in this room, and it's there's all these crates that say CIA. And people say, "Oh, proves he's in CIA." That's not a room of CIAs. That's a room if you work for a company and you're making clothing, you can only make certain clothes to send to the United States and Europe markets, and you mark them as CIA. He's literally in a clothing factory, and those are the bins with the clothing approved to sell to the U.S. government, like certified industrial standards or whatever it's called. But because they say CIA is approved, look, he's in a CIA office, and CIA is marked all over. It's like, that's not a CIA location. So the problem is people are reading little pieces, and then they're making assumptions and assessments without the totality of circumstances. And remember, Trump said this was his concern with the Epstein files. Because think about this. One whole thing is this giant spreadsheet. I don't know if you saw this. And the spreadsheet was call into this tip line and give tips on Epstein. And that's the one with the cutting off feet. Now, when I was in the audit committee, they would let me go through that spreadsheet because I didn't have to answer the calls. They're like, Sarah, look at it. You worked in Benghazi. I would say 90% of the people that called me when I was on the committee were crazy lunatics, and nothing they said was true. Now, you have this entire spreadsheet there, and then people assume everything in there is true. So we have to be a little careful with that. Now, 100% Jeffrey Epstein trafficked children, raped them. Unfortunately, with some of these contacts, there's people in his contacts who run organizations who take care of orphan children. They protect children.
I dropped my gun on
without
his body,
parents.
though.
I mean, it sounds like some of those children
nice
were coming
dropping
from
a gun
those
on his body.
locations, which is a problem because he's
So there's no
targeting
way I'm surviving
children
this.
without means. So that's why everyone is like, oh, well, why do all these women not come forward? Well, years ago, they had to sign NDAs. They had to sign NDAs because they had no money to get the kind of lawyers you need to go up against the elite. So they take, what, 100K, that shuts them up. And that's why you victimize poor people, because they have no platform to ever come after you.
I didn't even know about the NDAs. We just did this thing with this Christian camp, Kanakuk. Have you heard about this?
I mean, I heard of your show covered it.
Same thing. Settlement, NDAs. We never talk about the sexual abuse ever again. They're trying to... They sent me a cease and desist. They want to sue me. They want a public apology. I said, sorry. I don't negotiate with pedophiles.
Yeah, obviously. But why do we have a law system that someone can sign a paper from when they were a kid saying something didn't happen, and when they're 40 years old, they can't do anything about it? When you're young, you don't understand the legal system or any of it. You don't understand any of it.
Nobody
You can't
understands the
manipulate
legal
to sign me
system.
anything. So I find that very, very frustrating, but that's what a lot of these Epstein victims are stuck under. That's why people were hoping Congress were going to read the list of people who did harm against them on the floor, because Congress doesn't fall under any of those rules. They can actually do that, but none of these women can who sign these NDAs. Like, they throw these law firms after them.
So let me ask you this, back to the Epstein stuff, because I love this about you, and I hate this about you. You only go off fact. You don't look any you don't look at any context, but I get it from what you used to do. But how would your opinion? Let's say hypothetically it comes out that Epstein was a Mossad agent. I think that fucking dude was a Mossad agent. what would that change your opinion about Middle East policy?
I mean, it would, but I haven't seen anything that he's a Mossad agent. And at the end of the day, everything I've seen is what every one of these people do. I know it sounds really horrible. Remember, I have met these world leaders. They're disgusting human beings. I know it's really horrible to say.
No, I mean, you're right.
You don't exactly have to blackmail them. They do these things publicly. They have these sex parties publicly. They bring children in all the time to the Middle East. I don't know why people act like you needed Jeffrey Epstein. There's girls on planes right now going to Saudi, you know, who are teenagers. So I do think people think he's in control of a universe when he's 1% of a gigantic universe. And that's because we're letting these people rule us, we're voting them into power, and they are not like us. And we have to get people to understand there's elites and there's us. And you can't just say, oh, this one elite's different from the rest and they're gonna save us. No, I'm sorry. Like, you have to push them out in some way because they will never align with our values.
Yeah, man, it's so fucking bad. I wonder if we
It's so corrupt. But this is just one angle of the corruption, too. You know, I mean, there's thousands of angles, sadly. I mean, they harm people in so many ways all over the world.
Yeah, man. Well, let's get to what we're here for today. Sarah Adams, former CIA targeting officer with years on the front lines of counterterrorism, known by your call sign, Superbad. Former senior advisor to the U.S. House Select Committee on Benghazi, co-author of Benghazi, Know Thy Enemy, where you and your team identified the masterminds behind the 2012 attacks on our embassy. And now, host of The Watch Floor, the very first podcast to be in the Vigilance Elite Network. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I got you a little something.
Whoa, what's this?
Got you a little something.
Look at that.
100,000 subscribers
Yeah, they made these type of things.
in 1 week.
Here to be in this industry. But it looks great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The first sign for my studio.
Dude, you've been killing it.
Yeah, you're my boss now. So does that change, like, this interview?
I'm not your boss.
No, this actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is a little uncomfortable.
You're a
There's
woman that cannot be ruled.
There's a power role in your position over there today. Yeah, like, I can't mess up this interview. This is very nice. Thank you.
Dude, we are honored to have you in the network, and you are killing it. It's
Thank
awesome.
you.
I knew you would. Your information is just out of this world. It's awesome. But so we got a Patreon account.
Yes.
And
now I'm in it, so I see every
right.
comment. I just let everyone else know that, too.
so this is from Roland Morocco. A lot of intel coming out of Iran now is being provided by the National Council of Resistance in Iran. Can we trust the credibility of the intel due to the NCLI having their own agenda for Iran and the resistance?
Yeah, I mean, just for the viewers, he's referring to MEC. And MEC really was designated for a long time a terrorist organization. It's not exactly aligned with if we want, like, democratic values in a place, but unfortunately MEC has long lobbied in D.C., and they have put money in the pockets of a lot of our politicians. So as you can imagine, if you're talking about a free Iran or a post-Ayatollah Iran, you're worried about MEC because they've made all these influences, and you don't really want to watch the country handed to MEC. You want the country to maybe go into some sort of democracy or even have the king involved, and they put in together some sort of joint sharing government. So there are people who are concerned. When I was on the Hill, I got invited to, it was supposed to be an Iranian cultural event. It was like a holiday that day in Iran, so I went to it because, there's going to be food. Iranian food is really good. Right? Persians make good food. So I was like, okay, I'll go for the food. And the funny thing is, I went in there and I was in there about 15 minutes and I realized, oh my gosh, this whole event is hosted by MEC, and it was up on the hill. So they, unfortunately, are lobbyists, just like the Taliban are lobbyists. And so you got to watch these people because, like he's saying, well, what about the information coming from them? Of course, then it's influenced. So he's making a very good point. You always have to understand where information comes from, so you're not just taking influenced information. Now, the good thing with Iran, especially because of Starlink, we are getting ground truth from regular people in Iran, and so we are in a good situation. We don't have to sit and wait around for this group to put out what's happening because of Starlink, and someone can get to it and access it. We are getting, you know, what people are saying on the ground. So that's very, very
Interesting. How's our buddy Joe Kent doing?
I mean, I think Joe's doing a really good job. My argument always with Joe Kent is, why do you take someone with his experience and put him in charge of an analytic organization? I actually would like to see Joe Kent in charge of our whole counterterrorism policy, because you know who is. Sebastian Gorka!
Our buddy, Sebastian Gorka.
I know, like, you have Joe Kent. Why would you take a guy who never really worked terrorism and put him in the job when you have a Joe Kent? So that's
Here's why. Here's why. You want to know why? Because Joe Kent has a fucking mind of his own.
I know.
That's why.
He's not gonna...
He cannot be controlled. He's true to himself, and that's why the fuck he's not in charge of all of it.
Yeah.
I can't say the other for the other guy.
Yeah, and so I find it frustrating because someone like him could be a lot more effective, and they have him in charge of NCTC. So maybe we'll get lucky and they'll expand his role, because I do think he could really go and kick some ass.
I know, man. I know. I talk to him still, but I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want
I
to...
know you do, too.
We don't want to throw around people's gossip.
But,
The thing is, you know, I've always shared information on this homeland all across the country. But as you know, different pieces of the government action it very different. Some do nothing, some give you a hard time about it, some are supportive, and so it's very, very frustrating.
Really? Who's
when you think
supportive?
about it. Well, to be honest,
I haven't found that department yet.
to be honest, I feel the DNI has been somewhat supportive. I've actually found Customs and Border Protection have been very supportive, and ATF has actually been who hasn't been supportive though is FBI, who the FBI is in charge of finding these terrorists on U.S. soil. So FBI is the biggest hurdle to stopping the U.S. homeland plot, which is crazy. Because they should be the biggest ally to stopping the plot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
It's the FBI, dude.
I know, but it's like, you really don't want to stop a massive terrorist plot. You really just want to find these big dumbasses on the internet and say, we caught our guy, he's fired. Like, how do you have such little respect in your job that you only go for cannon fodder?
Everybody's just looking for a pat on the back.
I know, it's so
Nobody
pathetic.
really gives a fuck.
Oh, they should put me in charge of that organization.
They
It
should.
would be ended in a week.
They should. Good, then they only have a week of not watching the watch for. So.
I could come in and live stream while I fight people.
All right, let's move. So, funding the Taliban.
Yes, still happening.
Still happening. We're you know what I'm getting tired of? Is watching all these politicians
Lie.
use it and bat it around on their fucking X account. I mean, it's just, and you know what? I'm fucking sick of it. It's just like, just shut up and get it done. How about do that?
In my
It took,
congresswoman...
what, 36 fucking hours to withdraw completely from Afghanistan, leaving hundreds of millions of dollars of equipment, countless lives fucking killed, our allies being executed, having their heads chopped off, their balls chopped off, fucking murdered in front of their wife and kids, and then they murdered their wife and kids. That took 36 hours to make this decision. We're funding those people. We've been trying to get this pushed through for what, 2 years now?
Yeah.
2 years.
Exactly.
And it's still just getting batted around on X. Hey, let's talk about it. Let's bring it up. Let's make it a fucking campaign thing. Let's not do anything about it. I'm fucking sick of this shit, man. How the fuck does it take 2 years to make a decision to quit funding the Taliban 40 to 80, 87 mil, maybe more now, 87 million a week?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple hiccups in this, and it's so frustrating. So first off, the biggest chunk, the counterterrorism dollars, which is the 47, because the 40 is humanitarian.
You got me.
So the 47 million is in the Doha deal. The problem with the Doha deal is that was a deal brokered by Mike Pompeo and the last Trump administration. So obviously the administration does not want to end the deal because they don't want to make it look like they messed up, even though it's a horrible deal and it should be canceled immediately. So that 40.
So that's what it is. It's ego.
It's ego.
So we're paying the fucking Taliban
Yes.
damn near $100 million a week because somebody doesn't want to hurt their fucking ego and admit that they made a mistake.
Yes. The other issue is
Wow.
they're basically trying to get us not to talk about it. So like in the summer, Marco Rubio literally told Congress they stopped the money, which wasn't true. And
That
then,
wasn't true?
no, of course it wasn't true.
He lied?
Well, it gets better. So then he goes and tells, I don't know if you saw this a month or two ago, Anna Paulina Luna, who's my congresswoman, that the money stopped and he ended it. She goes out and gives like a press conference. So then I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. So I actually got really pissed because she's like, Marco Rubio said we stopped the money. So I was like, screw it. So I actually put my own resources into collecting the next payment. And that's how I got the January 12th payment that we dropped off in the Doha office, $87 million in cash. But I invested my own funds into collecting that payment to prove that was a lie. But can you imagine Americans are having to go overseas and collect intelligence to prove our government's lying to the American people?
How did you, hold on, how did you find that info?
I collected it myself
How?
in the Doha Taliban office. So yeah, so good luck sending the next payment, America. Don't tell Americans you've stopped, because I'm collecting the next payment too. And I'm almost to the point.
I think there's
steal a
actually.
payment. Seriously, I'm getting really pissed off because what they do is the money goes there and then it goes out in multiple ways.
Oh, I'm being.
So you can basically
Dude.
hijack it and steal it.
You got me.
So I'm at to the point. I'm like, I might just steal 20 million for fun.
I think that this whole we're not paying our taxes movement is getting bigger and
Oh,
bigger
it's
and bigger by the day. I mean, I
unbelievable.
saw like the Somali stuff.
Oh.
You've seen that?
Of course.
And the Taliban, London, pretty much all of Somalia, and the
Remember-
terrorist organizations that are there.
Remember, that's just our domestic programs that go to people in America. But remember, we also fund the Somali government. So you're only seeing one pot, even when we talk about the programs here and the scams here.
Scared
We're
me.
also just giving billions
Scratch
to
my
a failed
nose,
state
too.
of Somalia. And some of that money goes to
Oh,
Al-Shabaab as
okay.
well. So the other thing people forget, too, is there's not just one pocket. So let's talk about the Taliban for a minute. So we talk about, and Legend talks about humanitarian dollars, 40 million. Then, of course, I told you, the 47 million counterterrorism dollars. We fund the Taliban through the UN on top of that, through the World Bank, through IOM, which is my country, World Food Program. You know, the World Food Program, as I said, brings all the food to Al-Qaeda's terrorist camps. So we fund the Taliban in multiple additional buckets in addition to the 87 million a week. So we have to go find every bucket and stop the money to every bucket. I mean, this is going to take years to end this money. It's insane.
This is. Meanwhile, we got people starving on the streets here.
I know.
Our cities are a fucking wasteland. It's just, what happened, man?
Corruption.
What happened?
We put the worst people in our government and they stayed there.
So where are we with this Taliban funding thing? I know it's what, stuck in the Senate, or what they voted to vote on it or something. I
was
can't
in
even.
a-
It's just
I
like,
know.
the fuck is this?
Congress is a nightmare. So what it was sitting in a committee in the Senate, and they had to prove it to go to the floor. So they finally moved it out of that committee, and now it's going to go to the floor. So we're still waiting then on a full Senate vote.
Who's the one senator that's against this?
So
Is it? I can't remember.
well, it wasn't exactly. There was a couple of senators. The issue was a staff member, and his name is Tom West. So a lot of people know Tom West from during the withdrawal, because at the time he was basically like the U.S. government's official representative. Obviously, the new administration came in, and Tulsi Gabbard pulled his security clearance because he's a snake. He's a Taliban lobbyist. So she's like, you don't need a classified clearance. So then he got picked up by this committee in the Senate. He now works on the Hill, because that's how our system works. And so he's a huge lobbyist. His wife is actually in a Taliban family. So this is corruption, enriching themselves, all that type of thing. So he's been the huge hiccup in the Senate, but there is also some sort of hiccup, and we don't know who it is, in the White House who's supportive of the Taliban. Because remember,
Gee, I wonder who that could be.
we have another
Doha
issue.
deal was done when?
Exactly. Doha deal's a problem. But remember, besides the Doha deal, what's the other big problem?
Who could be in the White House that has a huge ego that refuses to admit they're wrong?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking
This
wonder.
game is so
Well,
hard.
that's the other problem, though. We have Americans.
That's why I'm
held by the
practicing.
Taliban. Think
Good.
about the
Good,
last
good,
year.
it's the only way
We've
you
heard
do
a
is by
lot about
practicing.
saving hostages in Gaza, even when no Americans were left. We had to save, obviously, hostages in Venezuela. When have you heard the administration talk about our Americans in Afghanistan this whole last year? When?
I wish I had a better
When one discussion.
sight.
It's insanity. That's a problem because someone in the
guess
White
not.
House is supportive in some way of the Taliban. Now, I don't know if you saw, but on September 5th, Trump actually signed an executive order, and it was something like state sponsor of wrongful persons. Did you see this? So anyway, it was an executive order to put different pressures on countries holding Americans. It would be like cut off the money you're sending to them,
Got him.
block people with U.S. passports traveling there, etc. So they have this law in the books, and they're not using it
I
to
bet he
Taliban.
had a.
Why would you
Oh,
use
he's
it
laying in the
against
rock.
Taliban?
Little
It was written
stinker.
to get
go
Americans
get
out
him.
of wrongful custody. We have
go
two
get him.
Americans alive in Taliban custody, and
I
then
have
we
a real
third
scope?
that likely is dead, and we need his body returned. So you have the wrong place, and you can use it in Gaza, you can use it in Venezuela, but you can't use it in Afghanistan. So that's super, super frustrating.
Who are they?
So we have obviously Mahmoud Shah Habibi, who I've told you about. That Al Qaeda is charging him with the death of its last leader, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri. So he's being tortured and all that type of stuff. And then we have Dennis Cole. He's an older American. So Dennis Cole's been in custody literally the last year. Nobody's hardly said anything about it. Like just last month, his family, I think, started talking about it. The Taliban, I don't even know if they've charged him with anything, so they clearly have no working court system. And then, unfortunately, the last person is Paul Overby. And I don't know if you know, he was a writer, and he wrote about the first Afghan war. So he put out a book, I think it was like Holy Blood in the 90s, and he wrote about the Soviet Afghan war. When he was back over there, this is a long time ago now, he's been in custody and he's deceased for 11 years. So he went back over to do research for his book. He left Afghanistan, traveling to Waziristan to interview Sirajuddin Haqqani, who helped capture Mahmoud Shah Habibi, and then he went missing. So they thought originally he was dead, and then do you remember that jerk David Rhodey?
No.
So there was this guy, I swear he purposely got captured by the crime. It's American David Rhodey, and he was captured, and then all this stuff went on.
Oh,
These people paid off a bunch of people, and he gets released. So he gets released. Actually, Boone was on the team that picked him up when he got released by the Haqqanis. So people think he was rescued. He wasn't. He was released for a ton of money. So anyway, when he comes out, he says, I saw Paul in custody. So that was about 2019. But there are a lot of people, he's in his 80s now, Paul, so a lot of people think he's deceased. So the U.S. government wants like his remains in his case. So we know two are alive for sure. But again, no American knows any of these names, except maybe Habibi, because I've said it a couple of times, but it's very, very frustrating that it's like no one cares. The other part is, so Habibi luckily has a $5 million bounty. There was a $5 million bounty to get Paul. Dennis, there's zero bounty. How do you not have a $5 million bounty to return him if you have a $5 million bounty for the other two? Our hostage diplomacy is one of the craziest things we've ever seen. There's like no plan. It's all over the place. Terrorists get anything they want.
How can nobody be talking about the fact that Taliban is holding American hostages while we pay them
Yes.
$87 million a week?
And we have a law that can stop the money today, the one passed in September, if they're holding an American.
And the White House is interfering with this too?
Yes. They're allowing this to continue with the Taliban. This weakness towards the Taliban is like one of the most insane things I've ever seen. And remember, one of these Americans is literally being tortured. Like, they've had to bring him to the hospital to revive him to continue his torture. I mean, it's one of the most frustrating things. And then even a lot of people in the government are like, we don't know if he's still alive. Dude's still alive, but he's barely hanging on because you guys won't fucking make a deal to get him released.
I hope you do an episode on this.
It's super frustrating. Yeah.
It's just.
I mean, the whole hostage diplomacy, you really should bring some people in, some of these families, or some people go do the negotiations. It
I
is
mean,
an
that was a
entire
terrible
train wreck.
1v1, but I
And we knew
won.
this years ago. Do you
I
remember
mean,
Kayla Mueller? So
it was
she
terrible,
the one,
but I won.
the head of ISIS was holding her, right? I think it was Baghdadi, and she was unfortunately probably his sex slave or whatever. And the State Department told the family, don't say she's kidnapped, and they waited forever, and then they made all this stuff, and she ended up dying, right? And then the family came out after and said all the crazy stuff that went wrong. Bob Levinson's another great example, who died in Iranian custody. You know, they even passed the law because that went so bad. And so hostage diplomacy is just insane. Like, we do not do this properly. And remember, these are Americans that we're trying to save in these places.
Dude, I just, you know. Ugh.
When we gave those billions to Iran, we literally didn't make a contingent on Bob Levinson, who was alive then, being released. So we're handing this cash to all these people as they hold Americans.
Let's move on. Let's move on to. You did a video on the most dangerous influencers. I didn't get to watch that one. What is? But I know my name wasn't on the list.
No.
So.
No, these are really dumb people, Sean. So these are the influencers, like,
Again, my name wasn't on the list.
They must not have a lot of followers to be the ones. So these are the ones Taliban actually reaches out to and says, will you come to Afghanistan and film to help promote us? And so then the Taliban brings them into the country, like the Haqqani Network, Roger 313 escorts them around, and then they set up all these little sites. They set up like this fake little photo station for them, and one, they set up a little coffee shop. They bring empty everyone out of the mosque and bring them in, even though women can't go in the mosque. And so they film this fake version of Afghanistan, and these influencers put out, oh, it's so nice there, it's so safe. It's like, please don't tell your dumb followers Afghanistan is safe. I do not want to go rescue more Americans who are being tortured in Afghanistan, who your government does not care about getting released.
This is happening everywhere. China's doing this too.
Yeah, it's very smart because, I mean, tourism's super important. I don't know if you just saw in Venezuela this week, the new leader, you know, she was his deputy, put out an announcement, hey, I made this new head of tourism, and it's like a young influencer. So these countries know we need these people to kind of paint us in a different picture, get the younger generations to look at us in a different way. It's a really good influence campaign. Not just done by terrorists, done by nation states.
You see all the messaging, just cookie cutter.
Yeah, and it's
all exactly
positive. You're almost giving like talking points. And then at least in Afghanistan, there's a lot of things you can't film, you can't say, you can't take pictures of, tons of restrictions.
Man.
I mean, just like if you were going to go to China, same thing.
Propaganda, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's take a quick break.
Okay.
If you listen to this show, you know I care about performance and what goes into my body. We should have that same standard for our dogs, but usually feeding them fresh food means a freezer full of mess and prep time. You usually have to choose healthy or easy. That's why I switched to Sundays for Dogs. It was founded by a veterinarian, Dr. Tori Waxman, who got tired of seeing premium foods full of synthetics. Sundays is air-dried real food, meat, fruits, and veggies made in a human-grade kitchen. Compared to kibble, Sundays invests 50 times more in its ingredients to ensure premium quality. No weird fillers, no synthetics. And the best part? You just scoop and serve. No thawing, no prep, no mess. Since making the switch, I've noticed my dog has more consistent energy levels in a much softer coat. It's real food that fuels his best days. Make the switch to Sundays. Go right now to sundaysfordogs.com/SRS50 and get 50% off your first order. Or you can use code SRS50 at checkout. That's 50% off your first order at sundaysfordogs.com/SRS50.
Hey guys, Sarah Adams here. Tune in Tuesday, February 17th right here live on Patreon at 2 Central. We'll be discussing my latest visit to the Sean Ryan Show, as well as this week's intel brief on IRGC's Unit 840, one of their covert action arms. We'll host a Q&A at the end, so see you then.
All right, Sarah, we were kind of talking about it a little bit at the beginning, but what is the update on the Homeland plot?
Yeah, so should I just give a quick overview of the plot? Because I think that'd be helpful. So the first thing is the objectives. So the objectives are very simple. They're viewed a little more positively by Al-Qaeda, so don't exactly think revenge. So the first objective is,
What do you mean positively?
I'll explain it to you. Because we view it as revenge. Right? We would say this is a revenge plot. But I want to explain how they're framing it.
Okay.
So they say part of it is to honor Osama bin Laden. To us, we'd say that's in revenge, but to their fighters, they're saying, hey, you're going to carry this out in his honor. See how they make that positive? Another thing is, we're going to honor all the Muslims who were detained over the last 20 years in counterterrorism operations by like the US military or the CIA or the FBI. So you're going to honor those people. And when you're training, they tell you they were unjustly detained. Because they say, look, I'm famous. I'm a senior Al-Qaeda commander. I wasn't in prison, but they picked these guys, 30 and 40-year-old random people in America, and throw them in prison. And that's what they're playing with these recruits. It's very, very smart, because they aren't detained. The last piece is all these fighters and mujahideen came before you. Unfortunately, things went wrong, and not all their plots came to fruition. Like, just bad things, right? All is well at the time. You need to honor them by bringing their past failures to success. Right now, it's on you and on your generation, right, to finish this. So it's very, very, very smart. So that's how they labeled out their objectives. Well, think about how scary the last one can be. You're going to bring all failed plots to fruition. So the biggest plot and the one most concerning in that is the aviation plot. So 30 years ago, there is this plot called Bojinka. Have you ever heard of it? Mm-mm. So it's fine. You remember Ramzi Youssef from the first World Trade Center?
Okay.
Okay. So before that, so Ramzi was involved in this plot. It was out of South Asia, and what it was going to be is the downing of 12 airliners going trans-Pacific to the United States. Well, what happened 2 weeks before the attack kicked off, Ramzi had an electrical fire in his apartment. Law enforcement showed up, found all the plans, and thwarted it. Also, when they raided the apartment, they realized, oh my gosh, they did a test run, and they blew up a bomb on the plane. And it only, luckily at the time, killed the bomber, and the pilot was able to safely land it, which is amazing. So, anyway, so that's a failed plot, okay? So that's one of the plots now they want to bring to fruition. So it's 12 airliners over the United States. But it's even more than that. So they also are trying to pull in people from the failed plots so they can have their success. So they took the bomb maker, he worked on the Cole bomb, he worked on the bomb for Bojinka, and he actually trained a couple of 9/11 hijackers. His name is Yazid Sufa, and Jade might have brought him up because he's running the CBRN program in Afghanistan. Anyway, they brought Yazid Sufa in and said, you can make the bomb for this plot, because he made the bomb for Bojinka 30 years ago. So they're bringing in all these old historic people to support this plot. It's very, very interesting. Another one I want to bring up super quick that they brought in, you remember the attack on us, at Chapman Coast Base, okay? So remember, the CIA was supposed to...
The cake bombing.
What?
Cake bombing. Which attack?
The coast attack, where we
Okay,
lost, obviously, the 2 GRS officers
Yeah,
and then the
yeah.
5 staff. So,
It gets attacked all the time.
I know, sorry, the big one, the big CIA attack with the Jordanian. So, the Jordanian was originally supposed to meet the CIA in Peshawar. Remember, he changed the location to coast. Now, he was in Pakistan. The terrorist that moved him from Pakistan, Amiram Shah, over to coast, is the terrorist who tested the bombs for the Homeland plot. And guess where they tested the bombs for the current Homeland plot?
Ghost.
Yep, Camp Chapman.
Holy shit.
So the bombs work. They tested them at Camp Chapman. And the crazy part is, right now, Camp Chapman is literally a suicide bomber training course. They train 3,500 terrorists at a time to be suicide bombers in external operations. They don't stay in Afghanistan.
The same camp that you and I were at.
Is now a suicide
now
bomber training camp. And so is Salerno. So the crazy part is...
Salerno was when I was there. They had already taken that.
Yeah, so the crazy part is they're training suicide bombers in that camp and then those suicide bombers are leaving Afghanistan to go to all of our countries, and our government knows the exact location of this compound, right? We know there's imagery of it. We used to work there.
It's our compound.
And they're doing nothing.
How is this even real?
It's the craziest thing. So anyway, so the biggest piece of the plot, as you can imagine, is the aviation piece. Now, remember how I told you they want to honor the people who are detained? So they want to strike like the CIA, the FBI, and the DOD in some manner. And the way it sounds like they're planning to do this is a siege on DC like Mumbai. That's why Scott Mann says, hey, law enforcement, study Mumbai, right? Because then you can learn how that's done. So that's another piece of the plot. The last piece of the plot's really interesting. So Al-Qaeda's running those pieces. So we have Saif al-Adil, who's the mastermind. He's the one that did the 33 strategies that you guys talked about in your show previously. And then we have Al-Qaeda's military commission, okay? So that's one piece. The other piece of the plot is run by ISIS's military commission, and that's in the towns where we live, work, and play, and they really have a strong focus on veteran communities. And the whole purpose of this piece of the plot is to take and make your town, right? You served in the military. They want to make you feel in your hometown how these terrorists feel that U.S. soldiers made their families feel in Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan. So this is very personal. This is like where people live, work, and play. You know, kind of like supermarkets.
Do tell.
Train stations.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
The crazy part is they gave
Let's
that to
go,
ISIS.
baby.
Because remember,
Let's
ISIS
go.
is mass casualty.
Roll up.
So that'll be probably the deadliest piece besides the aviation piece.
Try that in
so
America.
So it's crazy. So as you can imagine, because it's a half Al-Qaeda, half ISIS plot, FBI is like, Al-Qaeda and ISIS would never work together. And they literally go tell law enforcement, the plot's not real because the two would never work together. Even though the two worked together for years in Libya, they worked together in Syria. Yeah, they just won't get over old assessments and do anything about it.
Sebastian Gorka isn't tracking this stuff?
Yeah. Well, Sebastian Gorka is in charge of counterterrorism, so he is going to be the guy he's going to be the fall guy, him and Kash Patel. How could they not be? They've done nothing to stop this plot.
How about these bolos you put out?
Yeah, so as you can imagine, as we look into the plot, we're finding terrorists who deployed here for the plot. So we have given, I'm not going to give the exact number, so the terrorists don't know how many I know, but it's well over a dozen, okay? So we found well over a dozen of these terrorists in true name, group affiliation, and then their nationality, giving it to the U.S. government. None of them been picked up. So we decided to take two and put them up publicly. One is a Saudi, and he came here and he's a commander for a piece of the plot. So how Al-Qaeda did it's very, very simple. You know how we had like 19 hijackers? It was 20, but one fell off. Well, they said 20 is a great number, so we're just gonna make a number that are solely commanders. So think of it this way, it's different this time. So they had one boss. So now every one of them is a boss. So let's just say we're taking 20 hijackers. 20 hijackers have now replacements. They're all now commanders and they all run teams under them. So this person's a commander and he runs a portion of the plot and he runs the teams under that portion. And there's a bunch of him. There's maybe like 24 of these commanders on US soil. So that's his level. So the other one released is a Somali, and he's very interesting. His father's super famous. His father's maybe number 3 or 4 of Al-Shabaab. His uncle is. So Fahd Khalaf, longtime friend of the Bin Laden. So anyway, the Bin Ladens chose this Somali to come be a part of the attack because he's second generation terrorism like him. So he is in charge of a bunch of these cells in the United States. And he's in charge of, it doesn't matter if it's Al-Qaeda guys, ISIS guys, HTS guys, Libyan terrorists, it doesn't matter. He runs a big portion of the cell structure, and his cell structure is the one in Louisiana. And Shamsuddin Jabbar, who did the New Orleans attack was inside one of his cells.
Hold on. Before you go on, so you mentioned Al Qaeda and ISIS before, but now Al Shabaab is also in the mix.
Yes. So I want to explain to you how a cell works now. So in the old days, if I told you there is a terrorist cell and I said it's 5 guys and Al Qaeda sent them, you would think it's a 5-man Al Qaeda terrorist cell. It's not that way anymore. They redid the cell structure. So now when I tell you this Al Shabaab guy runs a bunch of cells, let's talk about a 5-man cell he has. So he has a 5-man cell, and it has a member of Ansar al-Sharia, Benghazi, who attacked us. I'm telling you who's really in the cell. There's an HTS member, which is a Syria al-Qaeda group. There's an Islamic State Khorasan branch member, right? That's out of Afghanistan, even though he's not Afghan, he's Bangladeshi. And then there's an ISIS terrorist. So now the cells are mixed, and they're mixed because the US government looks at al-Qaeda. They look at ISIS. They took HTS off the list. They're not even looking at them. And they're never gonna find 5 guys from 5 different groups collaborating because it's against their assessment. I told you, FBI is literally going around and telling law enforcement they don't work together. And they made their cells that way.
An admin
because
stash.
like people are so arrogant, they
Admin
just
stash.
won't view something different. They can't think, oh, the terrorists could evolve. Or
Of course, they
terrorists can be
wouldn't
smarter.
change their tactics.
I know.
Why would they do that?
Enjoy the
I know.
show.
So it's really smart, but it's so hard to find them, Sean, because you have to look in this terrorist group, and then you have to look in this. I mean, I've been doing this a solid 3 years, and I haven't even found a fraction of these guys. I've
Well, I
probably
mean,
found-
I think it makes sense that we're
insane.
not finding them because I can't remember if you said it or if Jane Doe said it, our mutual friend, but I mean, when we talked about how they're communicating and they're not using email, they're not using cell, they're only using human couriers. I mean, and they are unaware of each other with whoever's within the U.S. So even if you crack one of the cells, that cell has no knowledge of any of the other cells.
Exactly.
I mean, you could torture them to the point of death, but they have no information to give you.
And it's more than that, Sean.
And so, no wonder nobody knows. I mean, they've gone completely dark.
Yeah, and it's even before that point. So if you and I go to terrorist training camp together, we go in there under alias. So I might be able to guess you're American because you do have that, weird accent. But I know you as a completely different name. So if I'm being tortured, I'll never be able to give you a real name because I never knew it. So even the people they trained with, they can't identify. It's clean operatives, and then there's a ton of covert operations in this plot. Like, it's almost like doctrine. Because remember, the person running the plot, Saif al-Adha, was special operations in the Egyptian military. People forget these things. Remember, one of the leaders of ISIS that people are lying that is dead, Gulmurad Khalimov, ran special operations in Tajikistan. So these people are bringing real military doctrine in. And I don't think a lot of people are watching these advancements.
Man. Wow. What about the TSA stopping the screening for the bombs?
Yeah. Well, so this is a problem. So if they would have never said anything, it might have been okay. But they basically said, hey, we're not scanning anymore for the shoe bomb. And then they started saying the locations. And Al-Qaeda, remember, the only problem with the shoe bomb is it got a little moisture in it and it didn't go off. So they fixed the problem really quick. But we jumped in, the US government, and put really enhanced detailed screening in for shoes. So Al-Qaeda's like, it's not worth it doing the shoe bomb, right? That's what happened in the past. Well, like 6 months ago, DHS and Kristi Noem's like, we're not scanning for shoes anymore. That was foolish. Well, Al-Qaeda's like, good. We're going to put the shoe bomb back on the table. So they have prototypes right now of the new shoe bomb they're testing. So the shoe bomb's coming back because we are dumb enough to say we're not screening for it anymore. So they're going to make a visible bomb in a shoe and it's going to get on an airplane just fine because we have idiots who tell terrorists
You heard it,
we
Sarah say it.
decrease that screening.
Well, I'm
Well-
just curious. What are they waiting for? Why wait?
Well, they're not waiting. So you have to look at it
getting
this way. It takes time to train everyone,
That's right.
right? It takes
They're not
time to
waiting.
deploy everyone. And then when
Retard.
you deploy, you got to make your bombs. You got to do your pre-attack surveillance. And then, remember, they want to choose a time that we're that are weakest or not prepared. October 7th, they pushed an entire year. Those terrorists sat around waiting an entire year knowing, hey, we were supposed to do October 7th, 2022. I also think a part of it is they want to test even the patience of the terrorists because they want to make sure you can sit there. When they train them, they do say, hey, when we sent the guys to Nairobi, remember the attacks on the embassies got delayed 9 months, and nobody talks about that, in 1998 because the TNT showed up late. So even if they choose a date, things happen, and we've had actually things happen to the Homeland plot. So first off, one of the I said there's these kind of couple dozen commanders. Well, one of them, Faraj al-Hamasi, it's crazy. So he's Libyan, okay? He has to leave Libya and go to Turkey and then wait in Turkey to deploy here to come and then lead his cells, okay? So he leaves Libya, he throws his passport away because he gets a fake Syrian passport to travel with. I don't know where he threw this passport away, but there's this do-gooder in Libya that finds driver's licenses and passports and literally takes the passport, puts it up on a Facebook page and says, hey, if you lost this passport, call me. I mean, that's an Al-Qaeda terrorist passport sitting on a Facebook page, okay? Wide open to the world. So that's how I get his passport. So he goes to Turkey, and then do you remember when I was on the show, and do you remember when I talked about Ziad Balam? He's like the #2 most important terrorist in the Benghazi attacks. He was caught. So he was caught at the airport in Turkey. He got sent back to Libya, and then I was doing a whole campaign to get the U.S. government to hold him. He got released like 10 days later. Well, when he got caught in Turkey, this guy Faraj, because I guess he's not the sharpest, was like, oh my God, our whole network's getting picked up. Ziad wasn't doing the Homeland plot.
Nice.
So he freaks out, and he's like, we're all going to get wrapped up by the Turkish government, and he leaves and goes to Germany, okay? So now he's sitting in Germany, gosh, year and a half, waiting to find his pathway to come here to do the attack, and he's outside of like a sports bar, and some guy started like talking crap about soccer or something, and he stabs like 5 people. He's in prison. So the crazy part is, so he gets detained, as you can imagine, with his Syrian passport. So he's detained literally as Mahmoud. I kid you not. This is how dumb the Germans are. So Mahmoud, and then of course he changed his date of birth. And so I reached out, I live in Florida and we have a consulate, for Germany in Miami. I reached out and said, guys, here's his passport. You have a Libyan in custody. You're running it through your judicial system as a Syrian. Never got back to me. So he's literally in the German court system, a U.S. homeland attacker that knows key pieces of the plot. He was going to command a piece of the plot, and nobody's doing anything with him. But it helps, at least it messed up. You got to put a new guy in charge. Now, also some senior leaders got killed. Remember how I told you the ISIS military commission is running the attacks where we live, work, and play? Veteran communities is a good example. So he's dead. So in March of this year, he was in Iraq running the military commission, and his mom is a very famous terrorist, and we actually talked about her recently on the watch floor in like our ISIS women video. So his mom got harbored by Abu Muhammad Jalani, the head of Syria. Okay, so there's now a terrorist president in Syria, and he said, come live in Syria. Her name's Najma, and I'll take care of you and you'll be safe. So she moved into Syria, and he's been harboring her. So her son, Abdullah Maki, said, okay, my mom's been in Syria for a few months. It's safe. I'm going to leave Iraq and go visit my mom. And as he was leaving Iraq, the U.S. bombed him and killed him. So he was running an entire piece of the Homeland plot. He's dead. He wasn't killed for the Homeland plot, but it helps us. Another really good example is, remember I told you there's all these terrorist groups making up cells? Okay, so one of the terrorist groups making up the cells, and you'll know this group, is Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, the Pakistani Taliban. So how all these groups worked is just super simple. It's like the head of either the military commission or like their military chief who chose the attackers. Okay, very simple. In every group, doesn't matter. So he was the head of TTP's military. So he chose the Homeland attackers. Well, Pakistan killed him this fall in a strike. So he's gone. And then there's one more. So there's one more piece of the plot. So there was the aviation in DC and all that stuff. There's the attacks where we live, work, and play. And then IRGC went to Al-Qaeda and said, hey, the U.S. has an authority to do Homeland plot. Can we just lump in President Trump's assassination into the entire plot. So
restarting?
now the assassination of Trump for the death of Qasem Soleimani is literally in Al-Qaeda's homeland plot, but still run by IRGC. So the individual running that, I've talked about him on the show before, his name is Mohammad Kazemi. Well, Mohammed got bombed by Israel last summer because he was also one of the key masterminds of October 7th. So the good part is 3 very senior leaders are taken off the battlefield helping this plot, and then 1 local ground commander is taken off the battlefield. And there could be, you know, maybe a few got caught by immigration enforcement traveling here, or, you know, didn't get here. We do know a couple dozen have not gotten here yet for one reason or the other. Like, they're not on U.S. soil yet. So there have luckily been hiccups. The hiccups are good. It lengthens the timeline. It gives terrorists more time to make mistakes. Hopefully our law enforcement more time to prepare and get ahead of it. And hopefully people keep dying and it affects the plot. So, I mean, that's what we want. We don't want it to occur right away. We want it to keep getting pushed.
This is the part of the year when big goals start colliding with busy schedules. Between cold weather and packed days, cooking clean, high-performance meals isn't easy. That's where Factor comes in. They deliver fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and chefs, so you get real fuel with zero planning or cooking. I've been using Factor to stay on track. Lately, I've been hooked on the jalapeno lime cheddar chicken
I think it's
with
restarting.
cilantro cauliflower rice. It's high protein,
weird.
satisfying, and made with quality ingredients. No refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, or seed oils. They rotate over 100 meals each week to keep things fresh, with options like high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean diet, and even GLP-1 support. They've also launched their new Muscle Pro collection, built to support strength
Yeah, it
and
says
recovery.
restarting.
Everything arrives fresh, never frozen, and is ready in about 2 minutes. No prep, no stress, no mess. It's an easy way to stay consistent when life gets busy. Head
I
to
wonder if,
factormeals.com/SRS50 off
It's
and
too
use
much.
code SRS50 off to get 50% off
coding is
and
too
free
much, it just
breakfast for a
overloads.
year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. 1 free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active.
Alright, we could probably fast forward this. What, so when do they talk about the bio? Are they done talking about that? The bio weapon? They said it's here. I mean, okay, what's it? It's border. Okay. Taliban, cash, Ukraine schemes. Jeez. Benghazi. Ooh. You can't.
Yes.
Let's talk about him.
schemes in Benghazi.
So, yeah, well, this is, we're filming today. I know it's going to air later, but they're actually going to give him a sentencing February 4th.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
so tomorrow. I just have to say the dates because I know we're not airing tomorrow. But the interesting part is, so, you know, we talked about him previously because I put out a bolo on him like way back in like May of 2023. But
Did you really?
Yes, because he was causing. Remember, at the time I was running a nonprofit in Ukraine, and he was. So the thing is, Ryan Routh went to Ukraine to be a fighter. Of course, he got there, and you have to actually have real bona fides to join the Legion. He tries to join the Legion. They're like, you have no background. You can't be in the Legion. So what he did is he went to Kiev, and Kiev kind of has like a, I don't know, I would call it like a central market area of town, and he was hanging out there all day. He would hold up a sign with like his phone number, and so he was telling people, reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with groups. And so I was one of the groups, and he would act like he's associated with us to put volunteers into our group. And of course we didn't take anything from this crazy guy. Well, then he decided, oh, I'm gonna be like a PMC or something. So then he makes up this whole ruse. I'm going to bring all these foreigners in to fight in Ukraine. So he makes like a nonprofit. He puts the same phone number all over the place. He starts calling like Afghan commanders. Hey, give me some of your fighters.
This is the guy. This is the
Yes.
this is the guy that tried to kill
Dude.
Trump on the
Dude, yes.
golf course in at Mar-a-Lago, right?
Yes, yes.
This guy was able to.
No, telling you. Okay.
Okay.
This is what he's trying to do. He's trying to
Okay.
recruit Afghans, people from Africa, etc. Well, of course, the Ukrainian government's like, we're not going to give any visas to Afghans because if we have dead Afghans on our soil, people are going to think we're the most horrible people. Just think about
what
it.
happened?
Terrorists just took over the country of Afghanistan. If the Ukrainian government brought a bunch of Afghans in to fight and they'd be killed by a bunch of Russians, the whole world would be like, why are you using Afghans? You're taking advantage of these vulnerable people. So the Ukrainian government said, hell no, we're just not issuing these visas for any group. You could even have been a General Petraeus asking. So it was no across the board. So Ryan Ralph didn't care about the facts, and he started literally getting Afghans to illegally come towards Ukraine, thinking they're going to fight. And of course, when they got there, Legion's like, you can't fight here. Our government said no. So he starts running these schemes. He's telling Americans, oh, I'm helping in Ukraine. He's collecting like donations, not huge sums, but this is funding his life there. So here's kind of where this part of the story comes in. So I report him. So I first report him publicly, and then my chief information officer in my NGO reports it to State Department. I talk to a couple other people, an Afghan commander, another NGO, and they report to the State Department. So of course this all happens. Ryan Ralph tries to assassinate the president, and so my bolo comes out. Because people start sharing it. Hey, there's this bolo a year ago. And so the press start calling me. So that was September 2024. So all these press house outlets reached out to me, and I told them that little bit of my story. But I told them we sent these complaints to State Department. So they call State Department. They're like, we have nothing on record about Ryan Ralph. Nothing at all. He's not even in our system. Well, then there was like a FOIA request. I want to say it was Daily Caller, and it just came back like a month ago. And there's tons of stuff in State Department files on Ryan Ralph, and they were literally investigating him. And they lied to the press when they called about me saying, we don't have his name anywhere in our files.
Just like what I was talking about with the cash.
Yeah, so they lied to the press. And it was funny, one of the guys in the
They
press
bought
called me
it.
back, said, I just talked to State Department, his name isn't there. I said, I can promise you.
To protect the institution.
Exactly. And I said,
No, what in
I
the
can
world?
promise you a year or two, you'll hear it's in there. Because
Did it
every
crash
truth
'cause
takes
I was
about 2 more years to come
playing
out.
with
That's
all
just how it
that?
works in the government. But, so with Ryan Ralph, but it's really interesting. One other thing about him, about that plotting, didn't come out, and it should. So he did the whole thing that we all know on Mar-a-Lago. But remember, there's that thing
I mean,
where
I
there's
guess
the
it
deer blind. It was
could.
like 12 feet up in the tree, and it was towards Palm Beach Airport, and it was where Trump brought in his
I
plane.
didn't even see that one.
Okay, so yeah, so law enforcement found this like deer stand in the tree, and they're like, oh, we think it was to assassinate the president. Ryan Ralph
what
built
happened?
that deer stand. That's why we never heard any follow up on it, because everyone's like, who made the deer stand? And then they come back around and say he built the deer stand, because he can build stuff. He has like a background in some carpentry. But anyway, yeah, so he's hopefully gonna get life
All
in
right, so let me
prison.
stop
They don't
it.
have like a death penalty or anything like that on the table. But anyway, but yes, State Department lied. But it's just another great example.
Are they investigating it now, or
Oh,
the
no.
Butler one?
I don't know how any of those investigations are going, but obviously that would be what, FBI? Good luck.
Okay.
You know my opinions on how well FBI investigated Benghazi. I mean, I would not, if you told me FBI was investigating anything
It
for me, I would
connected.
either pay money and just have someone investigate, or I'd be like, okay, I'm never going to
It
get
eventually
answers.
connected.
Yeah,
That's my level of optimism.
I think that's probably just about everybody's level of optimism.
And we wanted, I'm
Alright, so
fine
let
if
me
you
stop.
reform the FBI, but
me
it's
look at
never
the-
happening. So I'm at the point, just disband it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'm fine.
I,
We have a lot of great law enforcement in this country. We can do a different organization,
Yeah.
bring in some quality people.
jeez, what's the updates on Benghazi?
So we're still working the investigation because there's so many damn terrorists. You know, one of the really frustrating things happened last summer. So Al Qaeda did this operational plan, and they were going to basically attack a prison where a bunch of our terrorists are held. So it's called Matiga Prison. It's just in Tripoli. Do you remember kind of like when Benghazi happened? There was like a real airport, and that's where Team Tripoli went out of. Well, then there was a military airport. So that was Matiga. The real airport ended up being like bombed by terrorists and it closed. And then Matiga kind of became the prison. I mean, the real airport, but it had a prison always in it. So terrorists are kept in this airport prison, okay? So this is where pretty much all of our Benghazi attackers are who aren't with General Haftar's custody. So anyway, Al-Qaeda was going to go and overrun this prison and release our terrorists. So we found out about it and put it up publicly. And there was a lot of pressure on the Libyan government. Hey, you're going to let Al-Qaeda just attack a prison and free all these people. So then the Libyan government went to Al-Qaeda and like, we got to do this a little more quietly. We can't have a massive attack on the prison right now. The international community is paying attention. So this is what's crazy. So the prison's run by this organization called RADA. They're called the Special Deterrence Forces. They're almost like a militia. They're more capable than most militias in Libya, but they're not completely clean.
How does he deal
So, like,
with
that's
all
where
these
Ziad Balam was
people?
taken, and he was treated like a king while he was inside for the 10 days. So anyway, they're holding it. They get a letter from an American who works for the UN. Her name is Stephanie Curry, and she hands this letter to the head of RADA, and it says, in good faith, you know, for your relationship with the UN in the United States, please release these 56 people. So it said, please release them in good faith. So the RADA guy looks through the names, and of the 56, 50 are terrorists from ISIS and Al-Qaeda, including Benghazi attackers. So I don't have the list, but I know some of the ones they were focused on is, so one of our terrorists, his name is Hisham Abu Sidra. We call him Kubayb during the attack because, you know, that was his kunya. When he was captured a couple years ago, he was the head of ISIS in Libya, okay? So this is one person. Another one is Mohammed al-Gharabi. When he attacked us in Benghazi, he was the head of Al-Qaeda in Benghazi. And then the last one, Ayman Bouhamoud. So he, first off, is related. Remember how I said FBI paid off that witness to frame the mastermind? So he's his cousin. But then 2 years after our attack, he kidnapped the Jordanian ambassador. So anyway, so this list has 50 terrorists. So RADA goes back to this chick, Stephanie Curry, who works for the UN, she's an American, and says, this whole list is terrorists. We can't release these people. Well, I find out about it, and this prison is very important to me because a bunch of my attackers are in it. There are like 3 people in the entire West who give any damn about terrorists in this prison. If you ask me to write a list of 50 terrorists sitting in that prison today who are actively inside, I could not do it. So I'm like, there's no way an American woman could sit down and write that list. Like, I could in a month maybe put a list 2025 together because people don't stay in that prison long. I told you, Ziad was only there 10 days, so sometimes they rotate in and out. So I was like, what the hell? Where did she get this list? Well, I find out where she got the list. So in Libya, there's this Grand Mufti. His name is Al-Sadiq Al-Ghorani. So he's the religious authority in Libya, but he's a member of Al-Qaeda. And he's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, of course. And he has oversight of all religious stuff to do with the Libyan government, but it's not like America and it's separate. So he's also involved in oil industry, any kind of governance, trade, right? Because religious role in all of this. He gave her the list. So a member of Al-Qaeda gave an American a list of terrorists to release that included some of our 2012 Benghazi attackers. Did you hear anyone do anything? What, Mike Waltz runs the UN? Nothing. Like, why are we having Americans trying to get Benghazi attackers released? Like, I'm so angry about this. It's so hard as it is to get these guys detained, I can't even tell you. But to know people who worked for my own government, like, are perfectly fine getting Al-Qaeda and ISIS terrorists. So it's the head of ISIS in Libya. You know how many people
Yeah,
he
if
killed?
it crashes, just wait till I put that
I just-
kit
I just-
together.
And then I
And
have to
just
be
roll
collecting and
it
trying to
in again.
counter these stupid activities.
I bet it's
That's
gonna
the crazy
crash
part.
in.
There's also no entity in the
What in the
U.S. government
world? Why is it
trying to do
stopping?
anything right.
No, I think
I
we
think
could
I'm
all
just
see
pushing
that.
it.
Yeah, and that's another thing. We get all these people that run for office. Oh yeah, the UN's corrupt.
it's
They
not
fund
ready. It's
terrorism and
not
do all
set
these things.
up.
They get in.
I
They
think
do
it's
nothing about them. They don't defund them.
loading.
They keep letting this stuff happen. What, we're gonna release 50 terrorists because some
What I was getting
idiot
at
in the
earlier
UN
too.
asked me?
It's just fucking talking points for them to put on X.
I
That's
know.
all this shit is.
I know.
I'm not talking about Tim Burchett. I think Tim Burchett
Tim
is,
does a good
is
job.
a good fucking man. But all these other people just batting this shit back and forth. It's like, shut up
Yeah.
and do your fucking job.
And they don't want any
Do
facts.
what the fuck we voted you in there for.
No, yeah, they don't.
But it's still, I don't see red or blue, Republican, Democrat anymore.
No.
I don't see any of that. I just see
It's not.
you're either a piece of shit or you're not.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's
it's
it.
the elites versus everyone else. Because Tim Burch is no elite. And that's really what the world is. I mean, all these people, I went and worked on the Hill and saw it. Like, these Congress people, they'll go and they'll say bad things about each other. Then
It's
they're at
not- it's
dinner
good and
together. I
evil.
remember the first time I went to a congressional lunch, and it's like, there's Republicans and Dems are all coming up and hugging each other. And I'm like, wait,
Oh, I've seen
on
it.
TV, these
I've
people
seen it.
hated each other. They make plans about who's going to say what. It's all a game.
Yeah,
'Cause-
Jeremy called WWF wrestling.
Yeah.
It's literally WWF wrestling.
They will keep their system in place and protect each other's parties no matter what. There is no draining the swamp. And it's just a frustrating thing to watch. And so many people are idealistic or they love like the person they voted for. And it's just like, you just feel bad because you're going to be so disappointed when
know.
they find out.
Yeah. I know. I can't, let's just move on.
Perfect.
All right, so let's walk me around what's going on geopolitically around the world.
Oh gosh, the whole world.
What's going on with Iran?
I mean, Iran is a very complicated thing because so much of our government has this belief, in the strong man, right? It is better to back a government with a strong man because we know exactly what we're getting. So even though I feel like the majority of Americans, and of course I am, with the people of Iran, our government isn't really supportive of that because they're like, we can negotiate with them, we can send them money, we can keep them at bay, we know how to deal with them. We do not know how to deal with or what kind of control or influence we're going to have with the next government that comes in. So we have this tough situation where unfortunately all these people are dying. The other thing that's happening that's very frustrating. So first off, I'm going to talk about that. So that means we're talking about our deals right now with Iran are nothing to do with the people. It's nuclear diplomacy. Because nuclear diplomacy is where you can fall back, pretend you're doing something, and then you make a deal and you say, hey, we solved something, and it doesn't do anything for the people. So that's what we're doing. But what happens with the people, and this is something that was different than all the last times, our government said, don't hang people publicly. So the frustrating thing now is they're doing extrajudicial killings, right? They'll just walk in and shoot someone in the head. They're injecting people and killing them. So we have no concept now of how many people are being killed after being detained. Before, they'd at least go to death row and be hanged, and you can monitor it in some way, but we have people getting murdered in the streets. And in the streets, it's not just Iranians. There's Iraqi militias, there's Afghans. I mean, it's crazy because Iran has an Afghan brigade people don't really talk about, but the Fatehun Brigade. So anyway, there's all these terrorists and bad actors killing people in the streets, but then even when they end up in a hospital or in custody, they're now being extrajudicially killed. And we're basically telling them to do it. Like, just don't do it publicly.
As of this recording, Polymarket says there's a 19% chance that Khamenei, I'm saying that wrong, will be out as supreme leader of Iran by March 31st. What do you think?
I think because our government's doing this nuclear deal stuff, I don't believe it at all. Now, if our government had said, we're done negotiating with the government Iran, we only negotiate with the people, I would say he'll be out 80%. But now that they're like, no, we're going to, like, the deal's weird if it's true. Like, they're going to give us a little bit of uranium and then we're going to be like, okay, it's all good. But the people, like, can't afford to live. They're oppressed. Terrorists are running their country. There's people killed with no crimes. Like, none of that is being addressed. And so that's super, super frustrating. So I think if we had handled it differently, I would say that. But how I'm watching it, it's a nuclear deal. I don't think anything's changing.
But I don't think a 19% chance is a great.
I know, but
You think it's less than that?
Oh, I think it's 2%.
You think it's 2%?
Yes. Now,
Okay.
a month ago, I would have said
Farther
it's
than it was
19%,
before.
but
Now I think
that
it's
I've
actually
seen this
lower.
weird nuclear deal, I know the government's...
What is the nuclear? Well, I mean,
So our government is
it'd be interesting
negotiating...
to see how Polymarket's percentage changes after
Yeah,
this.
sorry, Polymarket. But our government is negotiating with Iran Okay. But the negotiations happening right now with Iran are about nuclear. They started negotiations when these protests started, and they're about the nuclear program. They're nothing to do with what any of the protesters are asking for. That's what I'm saying. That's why I know he's staying in power, because that wouldn't be the deal you'd be working on. You don't need to make a nuclear deal with the guy you're kicking out, right? If this guy's going to be done in a month or two,
good
we don't got to
point.
make a new nuclear deal with him. He's going to be gone. We can end the whole program a week after he leaves. So yeah, so that's why I know it's a game now.
So we don't all that's all a facade too. We don't give a shit about the. I mean, I give a shit.
I know.
The U.S. government doesn't give a
Give a
shit
about
about
the
those
people of
people.
Iran.
Do you think we should have bombed Iran back in when was that? When was that? It was in the summer. We were in Dubai. We were flying home, and
Yep.
we could see the.
100%. So the thing is, and Iran knew this anyway. We were always going to bomb Iran when we found out they hit a certain level of enrichment or they could get close to putting.
How did we find that out?
So,
Because here's what's interesting to me, and I can't tell you who told me this. Not on air. Not one of our intelligence agencies fucking said that they were enriching uranium. It was Mossad that came along and told us that.
well, the first thing is you have to remember Mossad has way better access in Iran than we do. Just to be honest, I have some better access in Iran than the U.S. government does. So we have to be really honest about that. The U.S. does have bad access in Iran, so they've always had to rely on other people. So that's no conspiracy. Think about it. That's Iran's greatest enemy. They have the best access here, just like we had the best access in Afghanistan when we were fighting the Taliban there, right? Because that was our enemy. So you have to view it in that lens, okay? So that's not a conspiracy.
Okay, but I mean, remember early on in Afghanistan when we would go into these villages and we would just take somebody's word for it? Oh, no, they're the bad guys, not realizing that these two groups have been battling each other for 1,000 years. I mean, so, you know what I mean?
That's not exactly what's happening in this case. So I will tell
Kind of
you,
is.
they were 100% enriching, and the U.S. government also has information that they're enriching. It's not just from Mossad. That's 100% not true. I mean, I even had access to a guy who had a family member in the program. The program is real. The program is much farther along than our government was aware. And I think they were caught a little bit with their pants down and realized it is more advanced than we thought. Remember, for like 15 years, they kept saying it's not advancing. Sorry, a program does not advance for 15 years. So our government just kept rolling the same assessment over into every year. And I really do think Trump saw it and said, holy crap. We are so behind in our assessment on this. We got to hit them now. I do believe they had enriched that much. I personally believe it. Remember, I used to work around in the CIA. So
Wow.
there's so many conspiracy things around Mossad, but you have to look at the facts of the situation. They have been enriching very successfully. Luckily, we've been tripping them up over the years, over and over again, and Mossad has done it plenty, taking out their scientists and stuff, but the enrichment still slowly kept happening. People act like, what, for all that time, nothing improved? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, they brought in people, they brought in Libyan scientists after Gaddafi fell. They obviously always brought in Pakistanis, so they have the capabilities and always had it to make it happen. And so I think that's just the whole current anti-Israel propaganda.
Well, who are they
They're
more a
got
threat
some
to, us
stacked
or Israel?
gloves too.
Well, they're more a threat to Israel, but I'm telling you, to say no one in the U.S. government
didn't they
believed in the
bomb 'em?
enrichment isn't true. I'm just telling you.
All right.
There's no analyst in the U.S. government who didn't believe in enrichment. That's a assessment put out in the wild for the public, but that's not real. Unfortunately.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm skewed, but reading these Epstein files and all the racial remarks towards Americans and Christians is just fucking.
I mean, that's the
got me
world. Remember, the world's run by the Muslim Brotherhood. The world's not run by America, and people need to realize that. I hate to let people know, but we are not the top of the pyramid.
Let's talk about firearm security and readiness, because most people get this wrong. If you keep a firearm for home defense, you've got a real problem. How do you keep it secure from kids or guests, but still access it instantly when seconds matter? I've tried the electronic safes. Batteries die, keys get lost, and fumbling in the dark is not an option. StopBox is practical and built for people who want real protection without giving up speed
I have
or
a
control.
StopBox.
It's completely mechanical. No batteries, no keys, nothing to fail. The 5-button design is built for
It's
muscle
awesome.
memory.
I love
So
it.
with one hand, you get fast access while keeping everyone else out. Your firearm stays secure, but always ready. And that's what sold me. You shouldn't have to choose between safe storage and being prepared. I keep mine staged in different locations around the house. It's TSA compliant for travel, and it's made right here in the USA. If you carry or keep a firearm at home, this is one upgrade that actually makes sense. For a limited time, our listeners get 10% off at StopBox when you use code SRS at checkout. Head to StopBoxUSA.com and use code SRS for 10% off your entire order. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Again, that's StopBoxUSA.com and
That's
use
pretty
code
sweet.
SRS for 10% off your entire order.
Oh, black gloves.
Most doctor visits end with, "You're fine," but no real data and no plan.
Is there a
Just
black
guesswork
helmet?
while you're still dealing with the brain fog or trying to optimize performance. That's why Superpower
Oh, Temple
stands out.
Madness.
They send a licensed professional to your home, or you visit
Oh,
a nearby
wolves.
lab for one simple draw covering over
I
100
wonder if me being here is
biomarkers.
going to cause
That
the
goes far
million
beyond a
wolves.
standard physical. Inside the app, you'll get a full breakdown of your heart, liver, thyroid, hormones, metabolism, and even environmental toxins. Plus, a personalized health plan
Yeah, I think
with
it
nutrition, lifestyle guidance, and your true biological age. It's not a one-time snapshot. Your data is
think it
tracked
will.
over time, and their on-demand clinician team helps you interpret your results. Superpower used to cost $499. Right now, it's $199 for the full experience. Other services charge $500 to $1,000 for far less data. Know your numbers this year. Make this the year you stop guessing about your health with Superpower. Not only did Superpower reduce their price to just $199, but for a limited time, our listeners get an additional $20 off with code SRS. Head to superpower.com and use code SRS at checkout for $20 off your membership. After you sign up, they'll ask how you heard about them, so make sure to mention this podcast to show support. Let's go to Syria. Interesting. I had a conversation with a good friend of mine who was there. Actually, he's got a coin right over there that he brought me back from. He's a JTAC. He bombed the shit out of ISIS over there,
Yeah.
working with the Kurds.
Yeah,
Called me up the other day,
but it doesn't work with them anymore.
all upset.
Should
He's like,
be.
dude, all the people that we were working with there are now being fucking slaughtered.
I know, it's horrible.
And
What?
I
real?
said, I'm sorry, man. Like, I hate that you're going through this, but every single veteran generation in America goes through this. We go, we pretend like these people are allies, we abandon them, and then they all get fucking slaughtered. This is what we just went through in
Jeez.
Afghanistan. It's already happening in Syria. Kurds are never going to work with us again. What's
Man.
going on over there?
We let them be slaughtered in Iraq, like in the 90s, and
That
they
is
still came
true,
back.
that's
But,
true,
but I mean, it's the most horrible
Disgusting.
thing. I know. I mean, we knew this was going to happen, though, when we backed the new government that was led by Abu Muhammad al-Julani. Remember, that was an al-Qaeda operation to take Syria. So al-Qaeda took the country of Syria, and the Muslim Brotherhood put in all the leaders, okay? So that's just simple. Now, when we ended up backing this al-Qaeda leader, then of course he started doing genocides. So he did genocides against the Druze, the Alawites. So we knew it was coming for the Kurds. I even reported out maybe in October, November, that they put on the calendar that in January they were going to start the Kurdish genocide, which they did. So we told that months in advance it was happening, and the Kurds knew this. And so they first started, and they were just pushing the Kurds out of a neighborhood they run in Aleppo. But if you even see, so they displaced like 150,000 people. This was just a few weeks ago. If you see the narratives coming out of the U.S. government, it's crazy. They're so pro-terrorist. They say they were doing clearing operations in these neighborhoods. These are purely Kurdish neighborhoods. There was like, even the New York Post, they showed a video of one of the tunnels, because as you can imagine, the Kurds were in this neighborhood during Assad too, so they built tunnels so they could escape when Assad would come and kill them. So they're showing these tunnels and like, look at these terrorist tunnels. And Syria. They're called Kurdish tunnels, terrorism tunnels. So our government's leaning in really strong also to put out a propaganda that this new Syrian government's a democracy and it's our new partner, it's our ally. The exact same thing they did with the Taliban when they left Afghanistan. But
It's just
they're
crazy.
doing all these
We're inviting
genocides.
this guy into our country. He's cut people's fucking heads off.
I know. And he's
Like,
slaughtered thousands
what?
since taking over. Also, what they're really being dishonest about, and I would love your friend's opinion. So, also, Giuliani's guys and HTS, because he still runs HTS, went in and they broke out all these ISIS prisoners in these camps.
Oh,
Our government
no.
is
They
not
did it
telling
again.
us how many ISIS prisoners got released.
That's
Like they started
crazy.
saying maybe 150 got released.
Well,
I've already heard from inside
wonder,
Syria the number is over 1,500. ISIS terrorists are
What's going
released.
on?
The U.S. government is not like putting them on a list, going and trying to recapture them. And then Abu Muhammad al-Julani's sister, because she's a terrorist, was in one of these camps, and he not only had her broken out, he then flew her via helicopter to his palace. Okay, so we can see this, but our government can't see any of this is happening, and that's our ally. So they're going to fund Abu Muhammad al-Julani to fight ISIS when he just released 1,500 members of it. Like, they're lying to the public that they're fighting ISIS. So I don't know if you saw the event in December.
Why? Why would they lie?
They did the same thing in Afghanistan.
I know,
I wrote a
I'm just
50-page
asking.
report. So, yeah, so our government right now, remember, they give $47 million a week to the Taliban to fight ISIS. So I asked the logical question, well, are they fighting ISIS? And we did an entire investigation for a whole year, and we put a 50-page report showing their fake ISIS operations. So they're telling our government they killed this guy. Our government will handle $20 million for some dead guy, and the guy's completely alive. We showed tons of examples of that in the report. So no one in our government is actually going to confirm the information. So it's funny. We did these attacks in Syria about a month ago now, and it was like, oh, we found all these locations from the new government of ISIS that we didn't know of. And so what they did is the new government did they buried weapons caches in the desert, and we hit them in areas ISIS never operated in. So we're running fake ISIS operations, and then we had the horrible
We're
incident
running fake ISIS operations.
in Syria, and we're running fake ISIS operations through the Taliban in Afghanistan, which in Afghanistan, they're extrajudicial killings. We're killing innocent people and marking on a board somewhere in the DoD that we killed 12 members of ISIS. It's totally fraudulent. We did the same for years in Somalia. So anyway, but in December, we lost the 2 National Guardsmen from Iowa and their
Wow.
interpreter.
What
Our government's
happened?
even lying about that. They're telling you an ISIS terrorist did that. That was one
got
of
one
Abu
person on
Muhammad
there now.
al-Julani's men. And then they say, oh no, he just joined the force, and then they realized right away he was an insider and they're about to sideline him.
So
He'd been
weird.
working with them for 11 months. About 2 months prior, they moved him to that unit. And then think about it. If they know you're ISIS and an insider, why would they deploy you with the U.S. troops when they came? So anyway, so since then, our government has lied to the American public that's an ISIS attack. It's not. It's an Al-Qaeda attack. And then we've literally carried out strikes on ISIS 2 or 3 times now. And they're telling the public it's in retaliation for that attack. When it's Abu Muhammad al-Julani who you got to take out for that attack, but he's our new ally, so we're going to cover up that he's involved in killing American soldiers. And remember, he does that stuff as a test. What can I get away with? What can I get away with? What can I get away with? So he got to think about it. If you get away with killing Americans, of course you can go slaughter Kurds. And he knew that. That taught him, go in and get them. And we're allowing it.
And we will continue to allow it,
Yeah.
because that's who we are.
Our government does not have the moral compass of the American people.
Yeah, that's no shit. Man. What's going on with China?
And then remember, I told you though.
Oh boy.
No, it's just a reminder. The head of ISIS is literally harbored in Syria by Abu Muhammad al-Julani. So anyone saying we're fighting ISIS and the head of ISIS is in Syria and nobody's talking about that is feeding you a bunch of shit. That's all. So China's interesting because China, I don't know if you saw the recent national defense strategy, but it's changed.
Really? How so?
So China was previously kind of viewed as like our #1 military threat, and they moved it back to strategic competition.
What?
Yeah. So now our biggest military threat is like threats to the U.S. homeland, but China's no longer our number one military threat. So now it's back to deterrence, dominance, but it's from the economic side, they're back to targeting China, which is interesting. And then, of course, always a cyber piece. So now with the new strategy, the government's changed. So we're not really focused on kind of one-upping the Chinese military. We're focused on economic related things. So, which some of these are very, very good, but we still got to focus on the military. So it's, let's get rid of some of our dependence on China, right? Let's make stockpiles of rare earth minerals, for example. Let's find different supply routes for maybe AI infrastructure, telecommunications, those type of things. But yeah, so yeah, it's back to economic strategic
no
competition.
way.
So that is a big change. I'm surprised not a lot
I'm
of people picked
trapped.
up on it, actually.
Man, I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah, it was just in the last week or two.
Say what
Oh,
we ought
that's
to be
so
focused
cool.
on is our
Because these
power,
are
power
rooms.
grid
Yeah.
when it comes to China.
And hopefully, now,
Strategic competition?
the good thing about the shift in policy,
I guess I could
if
hang out
it's
in one of
done
these.
in that way,
I could make
then
one
the
of these
focus
mine.
should be not allowing China to
Admin
have
rooms.
access to our grid or own ports of the port. So
yeah.
if they really do shift and focus on those things, it will be huge wins. It's just we haven't
take
done
this
that well,
first one.
strategic competition in the past. So I hope someone's going to change that. Because if we just go back to the way we used to do it, well, we are failing.
So we throw a grenade in here. Ding.
JNIM surging in Africa.
Yeah, I mean, as
Haven't
you
heard
can
I
imagine,
haven't heard anything about this. What is this?
well, as you know, when everybody focuses when everyone focuses one place on terrorism, it's just surges somewhere else, right? So JNIM is basically Al Qaeda's main affiliate in North
The
Africa.
scale is weird.
If you
It's like-
ignore AQIM and Al Shabaab, okay? So it's kind of equal to them, but it's a whole different group. And JNIM is really interesting because it doesn't need
Yeah,
as
the
much
scale looks
money
really
as other
weird.
terrorist groups. They make all their own income.
Maybe for
like they
giants.
have
These
gold
people were
mines.
giants.
They actually have a tax
These
infrastructure.
people were bigger than us.
People have to pay them for protection, almost like if you lived under a mafia. So what they've done is they've been really smart and they
cool to think
targeted
about.
that kind of the collapsing governments in the weak states. So Mali, Burkina Faso, and then you saw we got kicked out of Niger, so they're starting now to kind of play around in Niger. So they're slowly having really massive gains in these locations. And to Al Qaeda, they're viewing it as the caliphate plan. You know, let's take Mali, let's take Burkina Faso. And it's been like a really successful initiative, and nobody's paying attention to it. But also, it's very interesting. I want to say it was about 4 months ago. A very famous terrorist showed up in Burkina Faso. His name is Abu Muhammad al-Masri. We talked about him previously. He's the father-in-law of Hamza bin Laden, but he's the terrorist that I told you the U.S. government believes he's dead. So the terrorists did this really interesting ruse. They fed misinformation to us, and Israel ended up carrying out an operation on him in Iran. And they teed up the assassination the terrorists did for the anniversary of the 1998 attack, so August 7th. So think about it. If you kill a terrorist on the exact anniversary of the attack, wouldn't you as a man with like common sense be like, this seems too perfect? But our government never thought it. So our government has him as dead. So he's alive. So he's running these operations for JNIM from core Al Qaeda in Afghanistan, but he deployed and he's on the ground in Burkina Faso, which is crazy. This is one of the most famous terrorists in the entire world. We aren't even targeting him, and that's why these operations are going so successfully, because he's running it. Like, he was one of the key masterminds of the 1998 plots. So it's just this frustrating thing. He also got put on, and he's now the number 2 on the military commission for JNIM. But think about it. If you're a terrorist and you convince America you're dead, well, then no one's collecting on you.
Yeah.
And Al-Qaeda's done this very, very successfully. I found this other famous terrorist recently. His name's Abu Jihad al-Masri. So you remember when there was the huge airline plot, and then we all had to go to, like, the 3-ounce liquids? Okay, you know.
Yep.
So there was a terrorist that we went after for that, Rashid Ralph, okay? So he goes and he's hiding in Waziristan like everyone else, and we bomb him. And when we bomb him, everyone said, hey, we also killed this Abu Jihad al-Masri, who was one of the heads of Al-Qaeda's external operations. He didn't die. So that was, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. So think about it. If you have a head of external operations alive for a whole nother decade and you don't know what he's doing, what was he able to succeed at that time? The government's not collecting on him.
All right,
What's he
and
been
then after you
leading?
do
Who's
this,
he
get
been
the
working with?
hammer,
Where is he
then
been
you do the
going?
teleport.
Some of these terrorists is really
Once you
interesting.
teleport, you're gonna
They
come
have
here.
fake documents and they're getting on airplanes and they're traveling all over the Middle East. Some of the United States' top 10 terrorists. Like a really good example, his name is Hamza al-Ghamdi. So Hamza al-Ghamdi right now is the head of Al-Qaeda's military commission, right? Pretty much.
I mean, we were printing them passports.
Yeah, well, he's flying all over. So he is on the,
Legend broke that, right?
yeah, he's on the most, yeah, so, well, yeah, so that's one thing. Taliban's making these people passports. But just think about it. Head of Al-Qaeda's military
And then you use
commission,
the staff,
one of the
and you
top 10 most
come.
important terrorists in the world, is flying on airplanes.
That's not it.
Nobody knows it's him. Like, that's how bad the system is. So it's not even just that they're making all these
Jeez.
passports for terrorists. The senior leaders are traveling around. No one's got a clue. So it's just this super frustrating thing. He's bin Laden's bodyguard. Our government
mean,
is
she's
missing
obviously-
everything. So they think people are dead who aren't. We got senior leaders flying
Talking
first
to
class around. We
people
have
in
groups
charge,
meeting and our
right?
government
Like, not
doesn't
just
even know the two groups even
podcasts,
have a
right?
relationship.
That's kinda
Like,
weird.
Terrorists have advanced
Why is she
while
just
we ignored them.
on
And we're
podcasts?
really going to be hit hard because of this.
Okay, so where do you
Somaliland.
teleport?
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
jeez.
so there's a obviously everybody's talking about
Where do you
Somalia
teleport
right now, but
in?
Somaliland was really interesting because they're not a recognized country, even though they should be. They're somewhat of a democracy. They follow our rules. They
That's
keep
all the
terrorism
old
out.
stuff.
But
I think it
Israel
could be this way.
decided to recognize them, and then it became a big hoopla, right? So
Why do you
No,
think
that's
they
how you
decided to
leave.
recognize them?
because where Somaliland is, it's super critical for trade, and it's a really great place to have a port. Like, to be honest, we should have a port there. We should have a military base there. And Israel's not the only one. UAE's been trying to make the same deal. So the port matters for the region.
I think they're going to turn it into a beach town like Gaza.
No, it's trade. Now, remember, Somalia is corrupt. Terrorists are getting close to taking over, and we can talk about that.
This
and
is-
you
I think
have
this
no
is all the
guarantee
upside
if you have
down.
access
This
to the
is
port
not.
today. You're gonna have the access to the port
This
6 months ago.
would have
6 months
been
from now, Al Shabaab takes over. So
after
you also, if you're a government, you have to start positioning
getting
for the next port location.
the head.
So
okay.
that's a huge
so
problem.
it's right
You
here.
have to remember, in
The handle, I mean.
Somalia, Al Shabaab actually runs some
So
of the
then,
ports. So when you
after you
pay the
come
port
here-
fees to go into that port, you're giving the money to Al Qaeda. So
And you
our
get.
government can lie all they want about it, but you're funding a terrorist group by
Alright.
just using the port.
So you'll teleport. You'll
So
come
anyway,
here.
so Somaliland is
You'll
the
make
best
the
regional
hammer.
option if you don't want to use Somalia. 'Cause Somalia is this corrupt landscape, as we all know. But
I don't even
as
know
we
if that's the
have
right
been
order.
talking about, so Al
You
Qaeda,
use Yemen as well.
you can use Yemen.
I mean, I know it's infested, but
You would do both. You know, you could stop in Yemen and then you could stop in Somalia.
'Cause then you gotta
for
go-
shipping or something. So you would
You
want. I
still
would
gotta
prefer
go
both
back.
if I was running things and making
Well,
deals for my government. Just FYI.
But you're going
now,
back.
with Somalia. So
with
for
a
the
hammer.
whole last year, Al Qaeda and Al Shabaab has had this operation to take Mogadishu.
And you'll have the
And
staff.
they've done it very successfully, and nobody's talking about it. Remember the Hamza al-Ghamdi, who I told you has been traveling all around? He actually went there, I think it was like November 2024 now, made this whole operational plan. And so what they're doing is they're slowly moving in on Mogadishu from every direction, taking cities, taking roadways. So if you put a circle around Mogadishu, and you're like, where's Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab? The closest point is 10 miles away, and then it's about to 40 miles away. So they have encircled the city within 10 miles in some locations. Other locations about 40. And so they're going to go in and take Mogadishu. And nobody's really being honest about this. So in
All
about
right. How do I come here?
2022 and 2023, there
done
was
this
huge
before.
operations against
This
Al-Shabaab,
little
and they
parkour
lost
section is
tons of
okay.
land. In 2025, they regained everything they lost during those counterterrorism operations.
Because then there's
So,
a stack up
Anyway,
over there.
a lot of people are getting very, very nervous because,
went
locals on the
up this
ground are saying,
way
it's in
and
within
down
90
and
days, who
over.
knows? Al Qaeda's goal is to take it within
need to be able to do a
2026.
jump
It was a
there, so
2-year
throw your
plan. We're now
plates or
in the
something.
second year. But as you can imagine, a lot of stuff's happening. Even the government's freaking out, and people in the government. So people in the government are literally starting to make deals with Al-Shabaab. They're handing off money to them. So some of the money our government's giving to the Somali government is getting like funneled and diverted to Al-Shabaab because they're thinking about their future. Right? If
Here it is.
Al-Shabaab takes this over, if I don't start making a deal with them,
Okay.
I'm dead. So everybody's starting to
So-
think, what are we going to do if Al Qaeda takes this
After
country?
you
sadly?
teleport,
And then
you'll
people
come
start to
here.
make deals and plans around it. It's a huge problem.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
And then you come down here.
It's a mess. And then there's a whole nother piece. Now, we have like all this fraud in the United States.
What fraud?
Yeah, I know. And then,
What fraud?
as you know,
Exactly.
a lot of the remittances are
Who's
going
going
back
to
to
jail yet?
Somalia. A lot of people keep saying it's going to Al-Shabaab. It really isn't.
And after you
Al-Shabaab,
get
a
it here-
multi-billion-dollar organization, but it's going to like these Somali
Let me think.
clans and tribes and even militias. Well, none of them are designated terrorist organizations.
So you got to make it all the way
So
through.
if you don't stop the money here, you're not stopping the money going there because
Where are
there's
you trying to
no
go now?
law
You're trying to
enforcement
go
or
to one of the
precedents.
teleports.
So it's a crazy thing. So we can't exactly stop the money in the Somalia angle. We really got to end fraud here to deal with this. Or our money's just gonna
Only
keep
one I
going.
really know about is in the big
I
temple.
got news for you, Sarah. Never gonna happen.
I know. It's
Never gonna happen.
I mean, they build these government programs for fraud because also the people running them commit fraud against them. Sadly,
Okay.
The fucking government's a fraud operation.
I agree.
Give me some of the craziest things that have happened to you over the past year.
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one. So, well, one of the funniest things is, so I have a friend from Iraq, and he reaches out to me one day, and he said, "Hey,
It's going to
did
be
you know
morbid.
Hezbollah in Iraq has a bounty on you?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "What?"
Funny.
'Cause
It's going to be
I know
morbid.
people after me. Al Qaeda's after me. ISKP's after me.
This is where I died like
I was
10 times.
Hezbollah in Iraq. I still don't know why. And he said, "Yeah, but it's even funnier. So there's a bounty, but then
And
they also
probably
have
like 10
a
more times
deal.
in
If
here.
you want to collect the bounty, you can come to Iraq and have citizenship in a certain province." I was like, "Wow, this is sounding more appealing to somebody." Because you got to make sure they're gonna pay you. So anyway, so the funny part
That
is,
is
by
funny.
the
That's
end of the year,
hilarious.
it kind of kept going like a lotto, and so it's now like $350,000. So Boone's been joking, like when it hits up to $1 million, we might want to think about this, like frauding it, right? Because so anyway, so I have this massive growing
Such a
bounty. And if you
sensitive-
want to live in Iraq, you can collect on
Okay.
it. So I mean, it's kind of a nice perk.
So I think
You
I'm
don't
going to go
seem
that way
worried.
to exit.
Well, I have worse people. Remember, the number 2 of Al Qaeda's military commission is trying to kill me. I think that's a little worse than Hezbollah in Iraq. No offense, Hezbollah.
Yeah, this is where you
that
go
was
for
a
the
funny
lookout.
thing. And then I was in an
Do you wanna watch?
ISKP video, which was super funny.
You know, is somebody coming
Can
to
we see the
in-game?
clip?
Yeah, I'll get it to you. Well, remember when I went on Chad's show, Robichaud? They took the clip of me talking, but
So you can
because
watch
I'm a
in-game.
girl, I'm like shaded out, so I had no idea as an ISIS video. And then this investigator in Netherlands, Peter, reaches out and said, "Hey, you're in an ISIS video," because I never would have found it. My face is blurred out, but yeah, it's super funny. So the funny part is, ISIS put the video out, and they didn't know I was doing the operation. Remember I said I did a whole year investigation? So they put this video out with me in it, which legitimizes me. Think about it. And then like a few months later, I released my whole ISKP report. So anyway, they now do have like
So
monthly
what-
updates
so what
on my
happens
information
if
going out. So it's super funny.
it goes
But
off
thanks
and
for
you're up
legitimizing
here?
me,
Do you
ISIS. So
die?
that was a really funny one that occurred. And then, so I made an off-collar
Like,
joke about
Do you get the
India, and I
temperature
got
effects and
banned.
everything?
Yeah, I saw that.
Like,
So-
how do you watch it up
So,
here?
I mean, I guess I'll do it again, but I don't know. I don't know if you want your YouTube channel banned, so maybe I don't repeat the joke.
Tell me offline.
Okay, I'll tell you offline.
I don't want to get banned in India.
Yeah,
wonder
it
how
was
that
just a
would
joke
work.
about their Air Force. But anyway, it was, and it
'Cause when
wasn't
the
even that
temperature
bad of a
increases
joke.
and stuff,
But anyway, so I made a joke, and that's
It
all
might
I
not-
did.
it might have-
And then I get a
I don't
message
know.
from
It'd be cool to test
Twitter
it out.
that India's like Minister of like Information, the official title, has banned you in their country. So yeah, if you're in India, you can no longer see
And
my
if anybody
content
gets
on
close to
X.
Wait,
in-game
okay, what was the joke?
and
So-
starts it,
Was
let
this-
me know.
it was
I'll
a
come
joke
up here. I
about their
want
Air
to
Force
test
and
and
they
see India, what
Yeah,
happens
so
with
India's been having a problem where they crash
the
a lot
spectators?
of fighter jets or they come down. And I mean, it
So
even happened in
open
like just
offer if
a
anybody comes to
exhibition.
end game.
So anyway, it's this joke. I'm sorry.
Let me know.
So somebody was talking about Bagram. And
I'll
about
record it
US
right
coming
here.
and bombing Bagram. I said, we're not planning to do that, but there's
Give
a
like a
huge attack
drone.
being planned in India.
Here, let me
So
go.
India
Let me get
will
my
likely
mouse.
in the future come and bomb Bagram in it, as this retaliation if they don't crash their planes on the
probably
way. And then
see
that was
that's
my
the
one
thing.
joke. And
I have to
that's the only
remap
thing
that because
they
my
said.
my lean left and
So
right
the
is
funny
on
thing
my mouse.
so I got banned in India,
That's why I
India
keep-
for saying that they're
Don't
going to try
worry,
and crash
India.
a
We're
fighter jet.
not much better. I mean, just look at Boeing.
Yeah, we have
Except
Boeing.
they're killing all the
Exactly.
whistleblowers.
And I talk
Not
all the time.
Boeing. The whistleblower shouldn't have said that. The whistleblowers are mysteriously
Yeah,
dying.
they're dying.
Wow.
of
Yeah.
unforeseen
Correction.
circumstances.
Allegedly.
Plus, I talk every day about Al Qaeda taking down 12 airplanes in the United States, and I'm not banned in the United States. But yeah, so anyway,
Yet.
but that was really, it was kind of funny because I was like, where did this come out of? So we had to go figure out because it said we can't tell you why. So I was like, I hadn't even posted
All
about
right.
India, and so yeah.
So
and then
once-
it was just an off-color
Oh,
joke.
where
but
was
keep your
I?
planes up.
Man. And your phone got bugged.
No, it wasn't
You're on your
bugged.
way. You're on your way to
No,
getting
it
banned.
wasn't bugged. I actually was gonna. So they were bugging me, but like bothering me.
Oh shit! I was gonna say,
Don't
good
start
thing.
any rumors.
Good thing we got you that Glacier phone.
Yeah, good thing.
No.
No.
Oh,
the-
what is
the thing
this?
So you
So
mean
where is
annoying
it?
you?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So, well, the funny part is.
Oh, nowhere.
So.
It's cool though.
So as you
Looks
know,
like a
I already
mouse.
told you I had these meetings with FBI. You know, the
It would
the
so
Ryan
it's,
Riles
it would
team,
it
and
would be
then
cool if
the,
this goes on somewhere
the
else
January 6th
later.
expert and whomever. And
Probably.
then
Look
I
at that.
always randomly
It's got
have
so
sent
much
stuff
room.
to FBI's
Oh, it's so
Benghazi
beautiful.
team of rock stars.
It's got so much
FBI
room.
has perfect access to me. They've
Look at
been to my
this, dude.
house. But anyway, so in May, FBI
All right,
shows
so I'll
up.
go this
remember I was with
way.
the Air Force at my
Go
bosses.
this
in
way.
DC,
Oh no
my
no no no
boss's
no no
bosses.
no! I'll go back.
Like people who
So I
might
gotta
not
go
even
back
know
to
who
the
I
main.
am, right? And
Okay,
they
so
show
now I
up
go
and they're
this
like,
way.
Oh, we're having an issue with Sarah Adams.
it's pretty
we want
quiet
you to
through
pull
here
her
if I remember.
clearance.
Of
And
course.
so it's my senior boss, and that senior boss literally is in charge of innovation. Okay, so
Did
he.
you get your clearance pulled?
No, my clearance didn't get pulled. So I'll tell you, it's a funny story.
I was gonna welcome you to the club.
Yeah. No, so he's smart and pulls in a lawyer. So him and a lawyer sit down with the FBI, and they're concerned, of course. And
Well,
they're like,
Sean,
"Can
you-
tell us why." So they had nothing. They said, "Oh, we heard she said on a podcast she didn't share something."
So then you have
with
to
us."
jump.
And my senior leader is like, "I know this girl has shared so many things with the government." So it's funny. They come back to me after, and they're like, "Can you tell us every agency you shared with in
And
the
then
last
come
like
this
year or
way.
two?" And I went through it was like 15 organizations in the U.S. government I have shared information
I'm trying
with
to
in the
slow
last 2
down
years.
the
So anyway,
mouse.
they have this whole meeting. FBI can't say anything clear to them. They're asking to get my clearance pulled. My senior so my senior leaders then tell my boss, and they're like, it seemed political. Like, does someone not like her? What's going on? And so my boss tells me, I'm like, it's got to be Sebastian Gorka.
Oh man.
I mean, who else? Who else is going to the FBI? Because remember, he was telling the National Security Council that I'm on drugs, that I'm
What?
putting out misinformation.
Okay,
He
so
told
yeah,
them
you go
Scott
this way.
Mann was like a financial scammer. So he's
And
made up all
then
these weird rules.
Come all the way
so yeah,
down.
so it was really funny. So I told my boss that's the only
That
thing
No.
I
guy
can
just
think
can't
of.
win.
So I
Remember
don't
what
know
he
what
did to me?
It could
No,
have been
this is
Patel,
the way.
too.
Remember what he did to me with the Sam Shoemate thing?
Yeah, yeah.
He made it sound
go
like
in
we were
through
making
here.
all this shit
I
up. It was
know.
a big psyop.
And then
And then the
Sam sent it
fucking
to 10 other
and,
guys.
and then the FBI comes out and says the fucking email was real.
I know.
And then that Ryan Macbeth dude, like I think he was an Army intel analyst,
Yeah.
apologizes
Right
here.
to me
I know.
and says, I
Ding.
fucked up. I was wrong.
this chill
And
puts you back.
Sebastian Gorka, what's his position again?
Head of counterterrorism.
Yeah, head of counterterrorism.
Oh, now he's got a new
fucking
job.
reposts a post of a man who apologized to me for being wrong in and that's who's running the counterterrorism.
No, but
What?
Sebastian Gorka has a new job. I totally forgot.
Oh,
He's
what is
also
it?
the
You
head
get
of.
promoted?
He's a head of like aviation threats against the U.S. government or something.
We
like
got to
that.
put the tweet up. He tweets this shit like out there to me, like
Yeah.
I'm a fucking psyop or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He posted this new job update on LinkedIn. So.
Oh, we'll put this stuff up.
So
and
now I want to say for the record, I don't know for sure if this is Gorka, but Gorka did tell people I was on drugs, so that's fact. So it still could be Patel because he's so thin-skinned.
You're such a drug addict.
So yeah, I know me.
Holy
So
shit.
anyway, so yeah,
ridiculous.
so my bosses decided it was political, so they kind of left me alone on it. But it was really funny because they went overboard, like, oh, we should deal with stuff. So then they were like, oh, with your foreign contacts, you have to submit every foreign contact who's a dual national. So that was like some work. But anyway, so yeah, it
Foreign
was
contact,
nothing
dual
came of it, but
national.
it was, like I said, FBI's DC office showed up at mine. I'm like,
Is that
they know where my house is. They've been to my house. Why didn't I just show up at my house?
global
So it was, they were trying to like
requirement?
shake me down a bit. Another thing is multiple times FBI's tried to come at me from different directions, as you can imagine, for our sources,
Oh, I would imagine.
which we won't
Yeah,
give them
that's
because they'll get them
scary.
killed because they're idiots. But usually it's a ploy for our sources as well.
Jeez.
But anyway, yeah. So no, I didn't get my clearance pulled. But I don't even need it now. I work for the Sean Ryan
know,
show.
right?
I should get it pulled so we can do an episode on it.
You gotta have a clearance to work here. No. This is my favorite thing in the outline, I think.
Oh no.
You beat up a cop and some people at a hospital.
No.
What is that?
See, this is the problem, people, when you get
Alright.
hired somewhere. So I got hired,
I just
and
really
then
don't
you
know.
brought on someone to work in my team. She's my producer, Diana. So Diana's like, oh, I want to get to know you, which I never
What
should
is
have
it?
believed
Are
this.
those
And she's
other
like, film it.
boobs?
So, film it and talk about yourself. And so it had all this stuff in it. So I bring up this story to her, and then now I have to talk about it because I filmed it. Because even if I don't say it now, you're just going to roll the clip. And so I don't trust you guys anymore. So now I got to tell this story because I told it to Diana, who I love. But so, no. So I did beat up a cop, but it wasn't exactly illegal. So what was happening is, it was actually a medical problem. So I was at CIA. So this was maybe like when you're in CIA, it's like post Osama bin Laden or before. So about 3 weeks after we captured Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, you can't
So
get
we have
up
a
here
timeline.
any other way.
And so I'm at work, and I go to my boss and said, I'm
All
feeling
those
really
wolves
weird,
is
like my arm's
nuts.
not working, and my head feels strange. And she's like,
I don't wanna
"Oh,
hang
you
out
need to
here
go
'cause I
home."
don't
So I
wanna
go
trigger those
home, and I'm at
wolves.
home, and then I'm feeling okay, and 2 hours later, like, parts of my body aren't even working. So I was like, I better go over to one of those clinic places. So I go to the clinic, and the lady's
All
like,
right,
it
wanna
sounds
try it
like you're
again?
having a stroke. I'm like, I'm not having a
So
stroke.
the
And
idea
she's like,
would
well, it's
be-
gotta be. So she sends me to a hospital. I spend 4 days there, and they say it's not a stroke. You were attacked by migraines. I kid you not. I gotta tell you one story though. Can I do a side story?
Yeah.
So, okay. So I won't say the hospital because I don't want you
But
to get
what if
sued
I did
again.
the stag card
So-
last?
Every time a FedEx letter shows up
I know.
now, I tell the team, like, oh, for shit, we're getting sued.
You'll be sued. You'll be sued after.
Yep,
this
we're
one.
getting sued.
You'll be sued after this one. So I was like, I'm just never gonna go to the hospital
So
again. Well, I'm
then
doing
I
my
would
Benghazi
take-
investigation, okay? And there's this terrorist, and he's an Al Qaeda member, long time a member of Al Qaeda. He lives in Bosnia. He's Libyan, and he's the guy doing all the travel reservations to bring the
So if I
terrorists that are
come-
injured in Libya to Europe. Because if you're injured in Libya and you're a terrorist,
I don't know.
you're
I
not
don't
going to go
have
to a doctor in Libya. You're going to go to like
So if I come with
France or
Smokey
Germany and go to get
first-
real medical care because Al Qaeda and ISIS get these perks. So
if I
he
smoke
he
teleport
flies Al
first-
Qaeda and ISIS members to Europe. So I did some looking into him, and one of his brothers works for the Libyan government. His other brother works in that hospital.
Holy shit.
Yeah, his brother literally works in the hospital.
Shit.
Who got me wrong, by the way. So I would not go to the hospital, but I won't say the name. So anyway, I go home. It's a few days later, and I decide to go to Target because nothing else to do in Northern Virginia. So I go to Target, and I'm actually talking to Boone because he's in Aden. He's in Yemen, right? So I'm on the phone with him, and all of a sudden I say to him, I don't know where I am. And he goes, you're going to Target. I said, fundamentally, I know I should know where I am, but I have no clue. He's like, pull over. So I pull over into like a business parking lot. And
Okay.
so this is end of May, beginning of June, after Bin Laden. And I start doing snow angels in the parking lot. There's no snow. So someone in the office building sees me.
Maybe Sebastian Gorka was right.
No. I'll tell you, there's a policeman assessment coming along here. So I'm doing snow angels. Apparently, I don't remember any of this. I'll tell you the parts I remember. And then, so the cops get called, and this cop shows up who's squared away because they thought maybe it was someone on drugs. He's like, she's definitely not on drugs. He can't control me because I beat him up. So he calls it backups, which is like some padded van. So I do remember this part. So I remember like some people like shoving me in a van, but that's like all I remember. So in my head, I'm probably thinking it's like terrorists.
That's the thing.
Or
You
something.
want to
So they
get through
shove me in
this. You want to
van,
know if you can get
and
through
then they
this.
bring me to the
Because
local
if you
hospital,
can't
which is
get
the
through
county over
this,
for me. So luckily
doesn't
it's
the
not the
rest of
hospital.
it?
It tears
None of the rest
Burlington.
of it matters.
So they go to this
So you wanna do
hospital, and
this
I beat up 4
first.
people going into the hospital. So they
And
end up
you
putting me
want to
under, and I
bring
had meningitis.
scuba.
Oof.
Yeah, so I had Lyme.
Okay, so you get
and
a
if you
scuba
don't
tank.
deal with Lymes,
then
it can become meningitis. This is something I learned. I
staff.
didn't know. And they didn't test for Lymes in the county I lived in, but they figured this out. The next county does. So anyway, long story short. So I'm under for about 2 weeks, okay? So I come
Okay.
I get a visit. Someone from my work comes to visit. My mom tells me who's visiting, and then people start stopping by. Sean. So I have no idea I beat up a cop or these orderlies. And so all these people
This has
start
gotta
coming
get
in who work in the
fixed.
hospital. I was
This is
super
in
famous in the
game. You
hospital.
can be
And
there
they
and
all
look
come in, and
through
I
it.
find out they all re-watched me again and again on the
Stupid.
surveillance video in the hospital beating people up. So
when
they're all
someone
like, oh, you're
teleports in, you
famous
can be like,
here.
"Oh,
We're all so
here."
happy you're okay. Oh, we all want to meet you. So everybody in the hospital want to meet me because I beat up all these people in the hospital. And
Okay,
they
so
all
here's where
watched
you.
the video.
Okay, so you're gonna come.
Oh,
You're gonna.
shit.
Oh my god, it was so
NBC
embarrassing.
gear.
And then the other thing is, like, my mom didn't bring me bottoms, so
Smoky.
I'm walking around the hospital famous
Purple key
with my
card.
butt hanging out everywhere. I'm like, Mom, like I'm out of it. Put some
Boat.
boxers on me. So anyway,
Scuba gear.
Oh, so no, it's even funnier. So my mom, so the cop takes my phone, and Boone is on it. And so Boone's like, I'm useless. I'm in Yemen. So he's like, call her mom. So the cop calls my
Staff
mom
from
and tells him I'm there.
KMUC
So my mom
first.
gets to Virginia and doesn't know how to get in my house. She literally calls the cop I beat up.
then
Can you break
scuba
me into my
gear?
daughter's house? And he broke her in
That's
the
hard
back
to do.
window.
Holy shit.
So good cop.
Oh man.
He
that's
really, the cop actually, later on when I came to my doctor, said the cop saved my life. I would have been dead within 30 minutes if he wouldn't have,
Wow.
if he would have made a different decision, like brought me to the police station. So the funny part is, so I'm in the hospital like 2 weeks.
Either way,
and
you
then
gotta come
I
here with a
leave, but it's like
scuba
a
tank
TBI. So I can't,
and a
I
staff.
can think fine, but my body. So if I could say grab the water,
So
so I
you
would
come
say
here,
it, but my hand would not do it or
Ah.
something. So for 2 weeks, I'm like crawling up and down the stairs in my house because I'm afraid to walk because there'll be times the
So
foot
then it
and
would
knee
be
don't
as
do
soon
what
as
it's
you
supposed
find the
to. So
staff
I'm
in
like
KMUC,
home, I can't drive.
you
And then
smash it and
I'm
you come
finally
here.
able to drive and stuff. So I go into
So you
CIA
have to
2
already
weeks
have the
part-time. So this is
scuba
where it
tank.
even gets funnier. So I go in 2 weeks and then I finally
So
can
you
go
gotta
back
get
full
the
time.
scuba
I'm normal
tank.
again. And so I
And
go
then go
back
to
in that week and they
KMUC.
say, hey, we need to deploy people to Pakistan because after Bin
So you
Laden,
come here, you
that's
got
when
the
they sent
tank.
all those people home. We need volunteers for Pakistan. So of course I said, I'll go to Pakistan. So my boss then gets this thing that I volunteer for Pakistan, and she's like, dude, you're just gone 3 months with meningitis. You're going to Pakistan?
Damn.
And she said, you can't go to Pakistan. You have a medical problem. I said, first off, my doctor was Pakistani, so I'll be just fine. And I said, and then I used
Grab that.
the rules of CIA against her. Remember, the CIA, you go for your physical every, 5 years? And I said, I'm still in my physical window. You can't stop me from going. So then I deployed to Pakistan.
Nice.
Yeah,
And then
so
this is
I worked
just
for a
be
couple weeks and then
murder.
I went
This
to
is
Pakistan.
just
Yeah,
full.
it was crazy. So
Oh shit.
so
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I beat
And
up
then
a
I
cop
just
and
need
did
to
not
keep
get in
on
trouble
coming,
for it,
keep
and
on
he broke
coming
into my
through.
house. I actually, if he's watching this, I'd like
And
to reach out to
slowly
me because
just
I have
keep
no
on coming.
idea
It's
who he
the only
is.
I hope
way
he
is just
does.
to
I
weed
hope
them
that
all
happens.
out.
Yeah, I'll come brief your
cannot see
department on the
through.
Homeland threat.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
All right. What's this Disney thing?
Disney.
Doing a Disney show or something?
Oh yeah. Well, it now.
You're like, oh yeah.
Well, it wasn't Disney. Disney pissed up. You know, I worked at Disney in college.
I didn't.
Yeah, that was my job. I was like that annoying person when you walked in the gate and I took your family photo.
Holy shit.
Me, man. Do you have any of those?
I don't.
Oh, you're one of those people who don't buy them. We work on
We're
commission, man.
Floridians that are
People that
cheap.
Just put me through college.
All right, so that'll take
So-
you to the
no, so,
Overlook, and then you
Gosh,
come here.
maybe a year and a half ago now,
You
I
have the
got
handle now.
contacted because there was a CIA series being put together, and it's called Inside CIA: Secret and Lies. And it was going through a number of different CIA operations, and they were bringing the different CIA officers who worked them to explain to the
Jump
public how the
down, throw your
operations worked.
stuff.
So I got called about a terrorist named Mullah Daduda
Jump
Lang. I
down.
think you know him. He was famous for anyone who worked in Afghanistan. So I'm in that episode. So I'm not like a star of the show or anything. So I'm in the episode
So
on
then,
him, but it's really cool because it's about the people who did spy ops, which I love spy ops. So anyway, that comes out the end of February, and Disney and Hulu picked it up. So it
you
should
can
be
keep
awesome.
airing
going.
on that. Yeah, so it'd be fun. The funny thing is, and I
With
hope
the
I make
scuba
When you
him,
say it comes
tank.
I
out?
hope I make him worried. I think it's February 26th. So it's super soon.
Holy
You
shit,
can
that's
go down
awesome.
right here.
Yeah, so the funny part is, so I'm in the episode for Mullah Daduda Lang, but I'm actually
down
working
here.
and targeting his son right now.
Wow.
So I wasn't doing it when I filmed it. So his son's name is Rayvar, and his son is working on the U.S. Homeland plot because we killed his father. A lot of people are forgetting the second generation is coming after us. And there's, in Afghanistan, you know, there's like core Al-Qaeda, right? Like the Bin Laden, the leadership. And then there's AQIS is the group that targets India. But then they made a whole new branch. It's called Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. And you know, when you hear, and I bet Legend says it, like Al-Qaeda's making all these camps in Panjshir. That's the element of Al-Qaeda, building all the terrorist camps in Panjshir because they want to kill all the Tajiks and push them out and take Panjshir. But he's in that group of Al-Qaeda, which is interesting. So we don't even, our government doesn't even work on that branch of Al-Qaeda yet. And it's been operational for years. So anyway, I work against his son,
Wow.
which is funny. Can't get rid of these people. I'm almost 50 and I'm still working these fools, so I'm going to retire soon.
Jeez. Oh, man. How's
Can you
Masood
get
doing?
down this way?
So, I mean,
I've not heard anything out of the NRF.
well, I mostly track on
Wow.
Amrullah Saleh because he's the one that kind of puts
No,
out the
this
intel
puts you at
side
the
of things.
bottom.
I'm less on the
You
fighter
don't want to
side.
go
Now,
through all that again.
there's 2 units on the ground in Afghanistan.
go
So there's the
this way.
NRF and then the Afghanistan Freedom Front, AFF. And they're the 2 that are like blowing up Taliban checkpoints and those type of things. So they have constant ongoing operations, and they sometimes are doing joint. They might say this was NRF or AFF, but it might be a joint operation. So they're doing constant
Down here.
operations, but it's like 1, 2, 5,
Down
6
here.
Taliban. It's not like they're hitting the GDI headquarters or
Gotcha.
something. So they're still moving along, but as you can imagine, the resistance has to have some sort of external backing, even if it's like a Tajikistan. And it just hasn't happened because
Follow the
you
river.
cannot take on the Taliban with being backed by the U.S. government. We give the Taliban so much money, so much legitimacy. No one's going to take out the Taliban until we cut off the money. And they all know this.
And then down
I
here,
mean, if they hit us
This is the last
in the
time it is
Homeland
Google.
plot and the Taliban,
you'll have already had the
takes
stat
credit.
card, the handle, the staff,
we would still fund
Smokey.
them.
No, you would
Yeah,
have
but they
used
won't take credit.
Smokey.
AQAP is going to take credit, and we're just going to carpet bomb Yemen. Yeah, but we'll still fund them. I mean, Hamas, all those leaders of Hamas, remember, they're like, this Hamas leader lives in Qatar and he's worth 30 billion and this one's worth 8 billion. They are worth that much money because U.S. government put that money into them. Like, it's like, guys, Hamas didn't make that money on their own. It's all money from the U.S. government going into them. So it's
Yeah,
a very
by the plane
frustrating
load.
thing. Like, I just wish.
All
I
right,
want
so
to
you get
stop
the
every
handle,
penny to
or you get the
Afghanistan.
hammerhead here.
Because as you know, if you say, "Oh, I'm going to stop this bucket," they'll be like, "Well, we got to do humanitarian. We got to do
That's
this." And
so
once
good,
we hand them
because
the money, we don't
now
know where it goes.
Yeah.
So that's
You
why
get
it
down
has to be like a dead zero. Somalia's got to
over
be zero. Like
and this
Gaza
way.
zero. And now we're
Straight
going to
up
invest in.
here.
Have you seen the Gaza
Up the
plan?
hill.
Looks like they're going to turn it into a resort.
Yeah. Besides that, I mean, yeah, that. So when you look at there's a whole PowerPoint. I actually wish I had the numbers off the top of my head. So there's one PowerPoint about how much it's going to cost. It's like billions. There's billions for security. There's billions to build the buildings. Blah 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 blah. But what I'm hearing
Yeah, you
out
come
of
this way.
terrorist circles.
Boom.
So our government.
So
So,
now
in
you're
that
at the
briefing,
swamp
I think Kushner, but also
with
Witkoff is saying it. They're saying we're going to disarm
staff
Hamas in 100 days. Have
and
you
the
heard
hammer.
this?
And
I've heard a
scuba
lot of
tank.
things
Okay.
that never happened.
So this just recently came
I
out.
don't think you need a
So we're
scuba
going to
tank
disarm
anymore.
Hamas in 100 days. So,
So,
there's chatter
you
that at the 60-day
stash
mark
the
there's going to be a
scuba tank.
huge government press release and say, okay, Hamas, you have 60 days. Well, what they're doing behind the scenes is they're telling Hamas, hey, we're gonna roll you into the security forces,
If this
into
is
the
gonna
military.
take you back to the
thousands of you.
swamp, I need
So
to
we're gonna
stash the
pretend we
scuba
took the
tank by
weapons from
swamp.
Hamas, and we're gonna make them
Because from
the heads
then
of the
on,
police and the heads of the military,
when
and
I
they're
come
gonna
back
run all
here,
that in Libya like we did
I'll
in
come
Tripoli.
back
So in
with
Tripoli, I'm sorry, that was Gaza. In Tripoli and Libya, we did the exact same thing. We let Al Qaeda take over all
spawn,
those
and I'll come
institutions
here.
and lead them. So we're doing the exact same thing in Gaza.
I'm
Hamas
not
is going to
here.
run the entire security sector, and
This
no
is
one's
how
being
you
honest
leave.
about it. So we're going to
Upside
tell American
down.
people we disarm them. It's peace, and we're going to give them a nicer place, put billions of dollars of investment into it,
Where is it?
and we're going to make a terrorist group 1,000 times more powerful.
The whole thing was a real estate play, wasn't it?
I mean, it's a whole lot of things. I mean, remember, we can't ignore the fact this
by
was
defense
a
stock,
plan
by
Al
Lockheed,
Qaeda, Iranian
by
attack.
Northrop,
And remember,
by
that was
General
the dress
Dynamics,
rehearsal
by
for
Boeing,
the Homeland attack.
by
I think
Raytheon.
everybody keeps forgetting that because this anti-Israel stuff. What they did in October 7th, they plan to do here worse. And we have
Honeywell.
to take that serious because Israel did not take any of this serious. They got some of the info, and I know some people who gave them info about the terrorist training in Afghanistan, but they thought it was a smaller incursion, one they could take care of.
All right, how do I
They
get back?
never thought, you know, it ended up being about 7,500 terrorists that infiltrated at one time. 7,500. And we know we have 18,000 here. So we have a lot of Americans not taking that attack serious when that was a first phase, and our Homeland attack is another phase of this. There's other phases, like I told you, India's after ours. But these are massive scale attacks being planned. And nobody is taking it to the terrorists because they're focused on they're talking about Israel, or, you know, it's like,
I mean, when you
They're
see
not-
what happened there, it's pretty fucking bad. I mean, we spent a long time in war zones.
right.
I've never seen destruction like that. The entire fucking
Oh
place is gone.
wow!
They did the exact same thing. So that's how you got rid of Al Qaeda and ISIS in Benghazi. Exact same operation Israel did. Israel did on this larger scale.
No,
You do neighborhood
I'm
by
down
neighborhood. You make them evacuate, and you go in. And this is unfortunately how you have to get the terrorists. We don't have the stomach to go after terrorists that way.
Is that how they're going to do it here?
So, they're not.
Take it neighborhood by neighborhood?
I'm just telling
evacuate
you.
everybody and just decimate the whole fucking country?
I'm just telling you.
I'm all about killing
There's a
terrorists,
lot of
Sarah.
misinformation coming out of Gaza. A ton of
All
those
about-
videos are from Syria. Remember,
it
I
this
worked
one?
Syria. A ton of Gaza videos I've seen. I'm like, guys, this is Syria, 2020, 2012, 2013, 2014. There is a lot of misinformation out of Gaza. There's a ton of misinformation currently out of Syria. So you also have to really be careful with this misinformation,
is.
especially those numbers are not, there is not 60,000
Okay,
jump
so
here.
no, this
So
is the
we
one you.
have to
This is the upside down. This is
be
the one you.
honest about who's also feeding us misinformation.
Where do you
Because
come?
that benefits the terrorists. Remember, the only people winning in all this is the terrorists. Hamas is getting more. Muslim
Bleeding.
Brotherhood's getting more
I
popular.
think bleeding
Al-Qaeda got
drops you
Syria.
in the middle of the
Taliban got
temple.
Afghanistan. Every year, the people
CP
winning are the
drops in the
terrorists.
middle of the
Nobody's talking
temple.
about. They're
Even
talking
if-
about Israel.
Even if you're right, we're not a serious country because we're fucking paying the terrorists.
Right.
So you can't
right.
tell me that going and carpet bombing fucking Gaza is gonna solve shit when we're sitting here. I mean, that's where the flag came from Legend. $87 million a week to the fucking Taliban. How much to Somalia? Like all these, like, we can't just go there and fucking carpet bomb everybody.
Right, but they.
Like we're
you
not
can't
even
go
we're
in
not
and
even
get rid
being
of terrorists.
serious. We're not even being serious. We're still fucking paying these people to kill us.
I know, but at the end of the day, you also if you're American, they say you can't go into Afghanistan after 9/11. Like, who are you to say Israel can't go in and hunt down 7,500 terrorists? Are very hard to find. Like, who are you to say you can't go in and get the people who did this to you? Like, that's another issue. Like, we can't on one side do what we want and then be the morality police on the other side because we don't like the person doing it. I had this problem so much, as you can imagine, in Libya. Because remember, the person who went after my attackers is a warlord. According to the press, he's not. He loves his country. He's a patriot to his country, General Haftar. Well, General Haftar went in heavy, obviously trying not to kill civilians, but he went in heavy on those terrorists, and there's people who have him up for war crimes for it. Well, I don't think he committed one damn war crime, right? He was very effective. His city was controlled by terrorist groups, and now there's not even an indoctrination camp in the entire city. That's how successful he was. But in the ICC, he's got charges for war crimes. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody has a different view of how this is done, and everybody says their way is better, but there's only very few victories. He's a victory. So what do you call that then? Because honestly, at the end of the day, the thing I care about most with terrorists is you don't get the second and third generation. In Benghazi, we don't have to worry now there's a second and third generation. He ended that. We're not ending that. Afghanistan, second generation is 1,000 times bigger than the first generation. We're screwed with what's coming out of Afghanistan. We are so screwed what's coming. It's so much bigger than it was on 9/11.
Good point.
So you have to sometimes do things with a heavy hand. Now, with Hamas, you can't do with a heavy hand because half the international community supports them, backs them, finances them, funds them. Remember, Hamas has been,
And you're saying we're putting them in charge of shit.
well, also,
it's
and
just
Hamas has been reestablishing in a dozen camps in Afghanistan. So they're in Afghanistan camps, training, no one's bombing them. So the problem with Hamas is they get so much support from the international community. They're only going to be stronger and more powerful. Like, we're not going to be able to get rid of Hamas because
Even the
there's so
fact
many.
that you're saying, you know, like, it's just, went in there, we did that, we decimated the place. You're, in your mind, it's justified.
Because it's not
But-
as decimated as you think. A lot
But
of that
then,
isn't.
so we go in there, we do this shit, we fuck all these kids up and innocent people, and then we put the people that we went in to go kill and destroy that did October 7th in charge of the place.
That's
so,
what we do.
So what? So we can do it again?
Yeah.
Was that
Well,
fucking on purpose? So we
The
can go
problem
do it
is
again?
a lot of our government is pro-Islamist. I know it's a bad way to say pro-Muslim Brotherhood. And as long as Muslim Brotherhood puts money in the pockets of our politicians, we're always going to have these deals. You got to remember, these kids in Gaza, Hamas took over in 2006. Their entire education system is terrorist training. Like that the second and third generation in Palestine, you're screwed already. Like, did you see any plans from Kushner then for de-radicalization programs? Zero. Like, we have people making decisions on what to do in these places that don't even understand terrorism. They don't even understand the people there and what's going to happen and what they're going to do. That's why Egypt,
they
Jordan don't want
they
to.
don't give a fuck because it's
It's about
beachfront
money.
property.
It's about money. Yeah. It's all. Remember, the terrorism fight made people a ton of money. We were done in Afghanistan in 2 months. We should have pulled out of Afghanistan 2 months later. We were done. We toppled the Afghan government. Bin Laden moved to Pakistan. There was zero reason to stay in Afghanistan one more day later, but it made people a lot of money.
All right. I got you something I forgot to give you.
You got me something.
Yeah.
What's this? I don't recognize this bag.
That's right. Something new.
You know, someone
just
made a
leave
comment
s'more
in one of my
bites.
posts about s'mores, and I thought it was code. I was like, I don't know what the Sean Rhimes s'mores are, so I'm not going to respond. I'm trying it.
Ru-
Oh, wait a minute.
It's like crack.
Oh, I wait for Sean Ryan now. I can have drugs. So, you know
They're
what's
legal.
funny? For my birthday one year, I went to Peru and did the whole Machu Picchu thing, and they give you a drink, and I didn't know the drink was like cocaine or whatever. So I did have cocaine when I was at the CIA, but not purposefully.
Oh, shit. What do you think about the Savannah syndrome stuff?
I'm not very concerned. This is good. I think one of your interviews got hit with Havana syndrome. Do you know about that? We'll do
Say
that off
that again?
record. One of your interviews.
Oh, yeah, that Mark.
No. Not Mark. One of your actual interviews. The one you did in Vienna, I think you guys got hit by Havana syndrome.
Why do you think that?
I'll tell you off record by someone in your crew that I thought got hit on the team.
Someone in my crew?
Was someone with you then when you did Masood? I think it was a target on Masood. Anyway, Havana syndrome's real, very concerning. As you saw, the oldest person with Havana syndrome just died.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, he died like a week ago. He's had it since the late 90s.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So,
Did you always think this was a real thing?
100%.
No shit.
Because I know people with Havana syndrome. And the thing is, you have to remember, Havana syndrome isn't something that just affects everybody. It's targeted at the best and brightest in our government, and it's only really been targeted certain places, right? We got Cuba, Vienna,
You see.
DC. And I've always thought it was Russia. You know, even when I went, remember how I worked the airlines for a few years? I worked JetBlue, and JetBlue was using one of the hotels that I knew agency people were targeting. And I told them, I said, I believe in Havana syndrome. I'm very concerned about this. I don't want any of your crew members being targeted, being near them. And they actually banned the hotel from use. So they listened to me and cared, and don't put their people in that hotel, which is what everybody should do. You should care about your people. Our government is not caring about their people, and they're putting them back in these environments, and then someone else gets hit with it, and someone else gets hit with it, and someone else.
Sarah, if you want to know what the government thinks about our people, just look at the veteran population.
I know. So I'm very concerned about Havana syndrome because, like I said, it's so easy to take out the best people that way. And there's no repercussions. Our government's never done anything against Russia for it.
I thought it was always questionable, and then this Venezuela thing, would Trump call it the
that thing? Yeah.
discombobulator or
The
something?
discombobulator. Yeah, I don't know if the discombobulator is Havana syndrome, because remember, we have things like...
Sounds like an energy weapon, though.
We have super high frequency things. You know, like, I don't know, if someone tries to go maybe on a nuke base or something. You know, we have, you know, the super high things, and then you could use on a crowd too, protesters, and then
Yeah,
you can't
I mean, a lot of the when I did the anti-piracy shit,
those things.
the poor Brits that were on other ships, we had guns. They have like little satellite things that'll blast you with a sound wave.
Yeah.
That didn't work well for them back then. But.
Yeah, so the sound waves have always existed in some form. I mean, did Trump use Havana syndrome? Who knows? But most of the community believes it exists. The problem is the CIA has not given up a lot of the information they know about it. There's not like a joint community effort to really solve it. And because the government hasn't wanted to be honest about it, I swear sometimes I think it's so they don't have to pay people. It's like, it just continues. So you have to worry. I had a friend decide not to go to Vienna because they're like, I don't want to go serve there for 2 years and risk Havana syndrome. So it's a frustrating thing too, because I know people who left the CIA because they didn't want to risk Havana syndrome. I know people in the CIA who their whole life and career was ended because they have it.
Wow.
Because it affects your central nervous system, and if it's really extreme, like you can't really think, you have trouble kind of talking and walking, like people are in disability from it.
Did the guy die from Havana syndrome?
Yeah.
That's
the problem is with Havana syndrome, it'll then affect you in other ways. It gives you cancers and stuff like that. And I think he died from one of the cancers from his Havana syndrome.
Holy shit.
So, and that's a whole nother thing. How many cancers we have in the military and in the CIA? I mean, it's astronomical if anyone sat down and put it together. And then where did all the cancers come from? Because the percentage is much more higher than the normal Americans living in their towns.
Oh, I remember being in Kabul in the wintertime, and they burned tires and shit, and anything they could find to keep warm. And I remember just spitting in my sink, and my spit was gray.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I know tons of
Can't
people
fucking
who's
believe
dead
it
from cancer,
out here.
and I'm in my 40s, and they're in their 40s.
oh man.
And we had a younger
You worry about that stuff?
CIA girl die. She was like my age. I don't know her, but she's friends with another friend. She died of Havana syndrome, I think, last year.
Holy shit! I didn't realize people were dying from this.
Yep, yeah.
Fuck. Man.
So,
Are you gonna do an episode on that?
I can do an episode on Havana syndrome. Love to.
That would be interesting. We got one coming up pretty soon. That's gonna be really good.
Oh, you're bringing someone on who has it? Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yep. But, well, Sarah, as always, fascinating interview. Unfortunately, fucking enraging too. But, man, thank you for coming. Thank you for all the info. And we'll be watching the watch floor.
Okay.
So,
Yep,
cheers.
tune in. Thanks.
No matter where you're watching the Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this at all, anything, please like, comment, and subscribe. And most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, head to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and leave us a review.
How do feminists ever take out the patriarchy without appealing to an enforcement arm, which is going to be necessarily patriarchal? How's that even possible?
Well, there could be robots, drones.
Who builds all the drones?
Somebody built some drone that builds more drones.
Who builds
now.
them, Ian?
I don't know. Somebody.
Men.
Could
Who
be
builds all
women,
the weapons? Men. Who knows how
men
to
and
use
women
all the
working
weapons?
together.
Men. Who can carry all the weapons? Men. Who can load all the tanks? Men.
It's not
Who,
a
it's always
100%
men.
thing. There are women that also do that stuff.
So the thing is like utilizing this idea that, well, feminists want this for women. Feminists also want to deconstruct patriarchal systems.
Right.
So let me give you a logical argument here, okay, that I'd like you to respond to. How can feminists do that without appealing to the patriarchy? How can they take down the patriarchy without then appealing to the patriarchy in an infinite regress?
How do you mean?
Well, I would argue that men have the monopoly on force.
Okay.
Overwhelmingly, they have the monopoly on force, and they always will have the monopoly on force. My proof and evidence is half of the world. Half of the world right now, if they decide women are, and did, they were. And women could never appeal to anybody except men for their rights because they don't have force. So because that's true, you tell me how it is that women, feminists, how it's actually logical for them to say we're going to dismantle the patriarchy, even though via the force metric, they're going to infinitely have to appeal to it for their rights.
So you're saying, like, if all men wanted to, women, like, they would be able to do it because men are stronger than women, etc.
Like half the world.
Right. But he
So
gave
it,
this sort of,
it presupposes how most of the observable world actually operates.
in that respect, and that's not what I'm taking issue with. The
Mm-hmm.
part that I'm taking issue with is just that it would break along these lines very neatly.
No. That's not the argument. The
But
argument
what he
isn't-
presented
yeah,
to
go
you
ahead.
is just that it would be like saying, like, if you have a group of people whose names start with the letter A, and then you have all the people whose names start with the letter B to Z, and all of those people work together to overcome the people whose names start with A, then yes, almost by definition, they would be able to, like, overcome the people with A,
No.
probably.
No. Well, yes, but also no. So let's caveat a few things. First and foremost, do you agree with me that there have been many revolutionary fights and revolts?
Yes.
Okay. Can you name any of them that were led or fought by women ever in
No,
history?
I don't believe so.
Ever in history?
No, I don't believe so.
One time in history.
No, I don't believe so.
So then what's
One,
going on is
Boudica.
that...
Boudica, the
No.
Celts, they
No.
fought the Romans.
No,
Yeah,
that was
Boudica.
men, guarantee it.
No,
We can look
Boudica
it
was
up.
was a queen.
What,
I mean, like, they were-
having
She
a
rode the
queen,
chariot, dude.
Hang on. Having a queen there doesn't mean that the people who have the monopoly on force weren't men, because it's always men who have the monopoly on force. And so the reason she can't
she is.
point to any time ever in history that's revolts and things like this were ever in operation by women, women can never successfully take their freedom back from a patriarchal... Hang on, let me finish.
Okay.
They can never take their freedom back from a patriarchal force without appealing to a patriarchal force. Ever. Not that queen, not any queen, not any person ever in the history
But
of
it
all of
seems like
mankind.
you said because it hasn't happened, it can't happen.
It can't.
But that's saying the only justification is because it hasn't happened yet.
No, the justification is that men are much, much stronger than women.
But guns
hang
are
on. Overwhelmingly.
invented for that purpose.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
Sorry to
Show
interrupt.
me... Let's get 10 women in a room and hand them a magazine and watch what happens.
But the great equalizer, the ballistic, is
No,
like
it's not a
because
great.
men are
It's not a
brawny,
great equalizer.
Just like
Ian.
with the monkeys, the
what
biggest,
happens,
strongest monkey would be the alpha.
Yeah,
then the other monkeys decided
no. What happens is with these equalizers is men take the equalization away from women because they're much stronger, which is why you see all these police officers getting disarmed and women in combat getting their ass stomped. That's why you don't see female Navy SEALs. That's why you don't see any of that, because they can't do it. They're physically incapable of doing it. Now, even if I grant you an outlier, even if I grant you G.I. Jane, who never came to fruition, G.I. Jane never existed, never came to fruition because they can't do it, but even if I granted you a G.I. Jane, an outlier, the exception would prove the rule. So the thing is like the reason she can't name a single time there's been a successful revolt or women gaining their rights by force from men without appealing to men is because it's never happened and it can't. So because of that, my argument is simply this. How do feminists ever take out the patriarchy without appealing to an enforcement arm, which is going to be necessarily patriarchal? How's that even possible?
Well, there could be robots.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there could be laser beams from outer
An
space.
enforcement arm that is not
look,
human
there could
male.
be-
That's what you're
Could be
asking.
aliens.
I can logically grant that a powerful, all-powerful gray alien species comes
No,
down here.
drones.
And
I'm
then
talking about
you're
robots,
appealing to the
literal-
gray alien species to control
you're
the
asking
men.
for a type of force other than the human male that could be appealed to. I'm
Yeah,
talking
who builds
about
all the drones,
robots
Ian?
and ballistics.
Who builds all the drones?
At this point, more drones.
Who builds them?
Somebody built some drone that builds more
Yeah,
drones.
who builds
now.
them, Ian?
I don't know. Somebody.
Men.
Could be men. Could
Who
be
builds
women,
all the
could-
weapons? Men. Who knows how
Men
to
and
use
women
all the
working
weapons?
together.
Men. Who can carry all the weapons? Men. Who can load all the tanks? Men.
It's not
Who,
a
it's always men.
100% thing. There are women that also do that stuff.
But not the
Yeah.
majority.
Well, that's
they're,
not-
they're unique. Not everybody's the same, but they're more
Ian,
outliers.
how come these badass women don't go, hey, I'm tired of wearing this really hot in the middle of this sun, and we got like, millions of us, so we're just going to take out this patriarchy. Why not?
Well, they are stripping their off in Iran.
They're
And what's how's
appealing
that
to
going?
men to come in and help them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
ballistic force, appealing to the force, basically.
Appealing to the force.
And-
So
and there
force
are-
doctrine, unbeatable, always appealing to the patriarchy. So answer me this question: how is it that women, feminists, how is it even a logical position to say that you want to repeal the patriarchy with full knowledge that you'll always have to appeal to the
It's illogical.
patriarchy
You
in
can-
order
you'll
to
always
enforce
appeal. That's
your
force doctrine.
deconstruction
You'll
of the
always appeal to the
patriarchy? It's like it's the
patriarchy.
most circular, stupid thing
no,
I've
no,
ever heard.
I think you have
They're
to appeal to
retarded.
force to
And who has the
overcome.
monopoly on
At
that?
the current
Men
state,
always will.
the human male.
Okay, so
Always
right this
will.
second,
By nature.
right this very second,
Because you have to appeal to
if
men.
women
We
want
will let you.
to deconstruct the patriarchy, who do they have to appeal to?
Men.
Right. Yeah.
Men.
Yeah. They
Can
vote.
you steal man Ian's argument?
Yeah, Ian is saying, what if there was some technological marvel that equalized force?
like guns.
Could women do it?
The sense that I got from your arguments is that
No.
right now the domain of force is, and this is your view as well, one that is overwhelmingly dictated by, supported by, and led by men. But there exists a world potentially where women could get access to this domain of force that either, I don't even think you're saying entirely excludes, but leads them to have an upper hand over men.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're saying all of this technology is basically the great equalizer, because between drones, tanks, guns, etc.,
Where?
if it's just a matter of
yeah, where?
what? No, I don't think that you're saying it's happened
No.
yet, but you're saying that we can't just say because it hasn't happened yet that it necessarily won't in the future.
And there's a
Well,
lot of
you
stuff
don't have a
originated.
human-
Well,
a
hang
lot
on,
of these
hang on.
weaponry that I'm talking about originated
you
because we had
advocating-
alpha males saying no one can stop me.
Sure.
I'm the biggest, strongest.
I'll tell you what
It's not the
then.
strongest that survives.
Hey,
it's the one that's the most adaptable.
I'll tell you what, then advocate for feminism in 200 years where it's possible, but it's definitely not right now. There's no world right this second which exists, or has in the last 7,000 years, where women can do anything but address their grievances to those who have the monopoly on force. That's always men. So you're necessarily always going to have a patriarchy. It's a
No,
vicious
no,
circle.
that's the fallacy. Saying it always happened, therefore it will always happen, is a
Didn't say that.
misnomer.
I said you appeal for it 200 years then when it does happen. Or if we were asking about logical possibility, remember, Superman's logically possible. I can grant a logical possibility where aliens come down and put shock collars on men, and if they look at women cross-eyed, they get f***ing zapped. That's logical. It could happen. Its possibility pragmatically is like f***ing zero, though. So because of that, I'm going to look at this from pragmatic logic, practical logic. If I'm looking at pragmatic and practical logic, Ian, I'm going to ask you again right this second, if men want to appeal anything by power of law, who do they have to appeal to
Women.
enforce it?
If
Who-
women want it.
If women do.
Women,
Women do.
Yeah, generally the government, which is usually run
Who's
by
the
men.
enforcement, though?
Yeah, cops.
It's going to be men.
Usually men.
It's
big,
always
big, strong, buff dudes.
everywhere men. And if men decide to collectively women tomorrow, let's just say they
No,
did.
that I don't agree with. Because there would
Okay,
be men
I'm
who
not
would stand
saying
up
that you
against
agree
it.
that it's morally correct. I'm asking whether or not they could do it.
They could try, and then other men would stand up to defend against it.
So who are you appealing to
Men,
again?
Still.
Men.
We would be appealing to ourselves.
You'd be appealing
I
to
mean,
men
it
again.
would be men and
what
women.
you just got
arming
done
up to
saying
defend
is,
against psychos
if
like
men
that,
came
like
in and they tried women,
So you'd be in the middle of the
men
other
would stop
temple
them.
And
with
women would
Brilliant,
stop them,
Ian.
and probably
I
kids
know.
would stop them
Scuba
too.
But
tank.
who would those women and kids be appealing to for force?
They're rifle. They're what are you talking about?
men. They'd be appealing
It
to
would
the
be
men.
if a bunch of dudes came to the women
Yeah.
in your neighborhood, and you and your wife and your kids
Uh-huh.
grabbed their rifles,
Uh-huh.
You would all be appealing to what? Are you talking? There's no
They'd be
appeal.
appealing to the men.
You'd be to God. Your right to
You're
self-defense. That's
so-
what I'm
Can I
talking about.
just say,
Hang
if
on, hang
someone
on,
comes
Ian.
after me and they have a gun, I'm going to look to my husband with the gun.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I
help
might
me.
have the
Hang on, hang
gun,
on,
but
help me
I'm
out
going
here.
to look to my husband to protect me.
Hang on, Ian.
There gets to a point where he's going to hand you a rifle because the two of you are better shots than one of you.
Yeah, so 300 men, they invade a suburban neighborhood that has 700 women in it. Are they going to win?
What is the situation? So you're
That's
in a walled
just 700 women.
compound that is only
no, it's
700 women in this
women, and they're in a suburban
all
neighborhood,
unarmed?
and 300 men come in there, and they're like, "We're taking
Are
this
the
shit."
women strapped?
They're both strapped.
They're all strapped. Probably
Yeah.
700 people are going to wipe those dudes
Oh,
out.
come
they have,
on,
they
Ian.
can shoot from windows. These guys are walking down streets.
Oh,
what a
Ian.
tactical disadvantage. Are they trained? Who are these men?
Yeah, okay, Ian.
Just
let's
random
find
men?
out. Let's find out if this is true. Let's just take a logical exercise here. You are a prison warden, and you're offered two choices for those who can guard your prisoners. You'll either get twice
Ian
the
likes
women
these word games.
or half the men to guard these prisoners. Now, these are the worst prisoners on planet Earth. They're big, they're mean, they're strong, and they're awful. Now, remember, you're going to get 2 women for every 1 male guard. Which one are you going to choose?
The men.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, so anyway, back to the
They're
debate.
not shooting the dude. If you want to give me 700 rifles and you take 300 rifles, I'll take 700 rifles.
Okay. How about
If your guys are trained Navy
what
SEALs,
if I
now
give
it's a
you
different
3
argument.
women per 1 man?
So do
Are
I
they
need
armed?
a purple card again?
What are you
Yes.
talking about?
Hang on.
They have
All
rifles
things
to
are
shoot to
equal.
kill?
In the
Card
guard
again.
towers, you can still have some women who are armed. The ones who have to patrol the floor, though, they're
Look,
women.
if I need dudes in hand-to-hand combat, that's its own thing. But if I need guards with guns, I'm going to take the triple the guns. What do you?
Yeah, in the towers, you're going to
Oh,
take
it's-
guards
this
in the
is the
tower,
upside
triple the
down.
tower. I
Does it
get it,
work
but who's
there?
walking the floor, Ian?
Put some, I don't know, big burly dudes down there.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
that's not the argument.
That's
Your
right.
argument is that men can arbitrarily
So I
women
wonder
because they're
how
stronger. I
you
mean, it's the
get-
Yes.
most, it's almost
Okay,
like
so this is
black and white.
Oh.
Like lack of
Hey,
evidence.
let me
Like,
ask you a question.
That's why we built guns to defend
Ian,
against that
Ian,
mentality.
Help me out. There's never been a
See,
female revolution ever
this is the drop
using
down
physical
in the
force
other
against
one.
men, which has ever been successful or even really
the
tried.
French
This is the upside
Revolution.
down one.
Which was full of men who were in.
It was started by
Come on.
women, dude.
Who was taking the men to the guillotines?
so-
Who got
I
the
guess you
weapons
have
out of
to
the
have a
Bastille?
purple
It was
card?
the women.
Bro, who was using them?
They all did.
No, it was the men, dude.
Are
Come
you
on,
unfamiliar with the
Okay,
women
so you
that
can
started
go
the
this
French
way.
Revolution?
Ian. Let's walk through the French Revolution. Who was taking the people to the guillotines?
I mean, I wasn't there.
Men.
You're saying 100% men? Is this your argument? It was all men.
Of
Almost.
course it
No women,
was.
all men.
Yeah, basically
no,
all
I, did-
men.
I
It wouldn't have been
cannot
able to
believe
have
that.
been done if
I'll
it
tell you
was
what,
all
I'll just
women.
grant it.
Stop,
It's 5%
Ian.
women.
Dude, the
So-
women started the
I'll
revolution,
just
bro.
grant,
Do you
I'll
not
just-
know that?
I'll just grant it for you. That it's 5%
And
women.
then I think you put
who-
the
The women
keyboard
started the
right.
communist
Punch
revolution in
card.
Russia.
Oh, it's so
yeah,
cool.
so what? It has nothing to
It
do
was
with
a
force
successful
doctrine.
overthrow of the
It has
government, bro.
nothing to do.
You just said there was
with
no
force doctrine.
successful revolution started by women ever.
No,
So
no, no.
that's-
With physical force.
That was
In
the
other
French
words,
Revolution.
No,
what are you talking?
dude.
They robbed the bank. Sorry to interrupt. Make your point.
let's pretend for a second that you have 8,000 women in cages. Okay, who are, and then you have masters. Okay, can we point to instances in history
So how do you get there?
where those all men who are in cages, right, have successfully overthrown their oppressors?
You get there.
You said
by
there's women in
going-
cages?
No, men.
Okay, so
Here.
there's 800 men.
There's
in
8,000
cages?
men in
8,000 men
cages.
in cages.
Mm-hmm.
Has there ever been an
You're
instance in
ready.
history where they've overthrown the dudes
Mm-hmm.
Come up here.
without external help?
No, well, yeah, even without external help.
Not that I know of. I mean, people in cages, they're in cages.
The
you know?
answer
How
is
do you get
yes.
down
There has
here?
been many rebellions which were successful.
So you would
led
have
by
had the
men
staff
of all
lit
men.
up by
Not a single
the,
one by women. Hang on. Ever. Not a single
Arctic
one will you ever be able to point to historically
flame.
where women were en masse by men and ever were able to successfully use force, stop
and
it,
then
to get out of there.
teleport.
Not once. They always have to appeal to males. Always,
think
which is
that's
why
the
when I
right
gave her the
time.
example, she was forced to agree. There's no choice around it. You always
then
have
you
to
go to
appeal
the other
to
one.
male force. There's no way around it. You're talking about women using like loudspeakers and propaganda to start fights, sure, but they're not fighting the fights, is my point. They're always appealing to people who can. That's the point. And so if it's the patriarchy that we're talking about, it's always going to be those who have a monopoly on force. So women, these feminists, are always going to have to appeal to those who have the monopoly on force, thus creating a new patriarchy. It's just like an over and over and over again cyclical It's just cyclical logic. It's bizarre. It makes no sense.
But I just don't think that the monopoly on force equals male necessarily.
Yeah, it equals male.
It usually does,
It always
because men
does.
are physically stronger. But then we built guns. It's a
Yeah.
relatively new invention, and
It's
now
not that new.
you started to see like even men kind of don't have a monopoly on force. Like, we have robots that can drone. Like, we don't.
The robots, I'm sorry, do robots operate and build themselves or something?
Well, not yet. But
No.
we're starting to lose the monopoly on force as human men.
No, we're not.
I mean, dude, a whole village can get blown up by an airplane.
Yeah, you're talking
That's-
about like clean warfare. Like largely, a lot of it's happening from like the sky because you have people just piloting drones. You
Yeah,
don't
unless
have
you're
men
in the
like
Ukraine.
rushing out into warfare anymore.
Yeah.
Like always. Or
Unless you're in the
can't live
Ukraine and you're in
warfare.
trenches and you're fighting in combat and the women all fled. They all fled. Women all fled. They're all in different countries. They got the out of there. They hightailed it. They're not in the trenches fighting, Ian. How come? That's really weird.
I'm not there, man. I
That's
don't know if there are
that's
women
really
fighting or
weird.
not.
Where are all these? Where
Well,
are all the?
I thought your point was that we're largely moving away from like this sort of trench
Kinetic
warfare or
warfare.
whatever.
But
Yeah,
we're not.
exactly. And we're starting to move
Well, there-
towards like informational warfare, drone warfare, AI warfare,
there
etc.
There will always be trench warfare. There will always be guys getting up in each other's faces. But yeah, ballistics have altered the way force is wielded and the way monopoly is drawn.
Oh yeah, is that so?
Yeah.
No, let me ask you a question. All things equal between a man and a woman, right? You give them both a gun, right? One of them has to watch your back. Who you picking?
It's such a vague question. I don't know them.
You don't know
Who
them.
are they?
You're just going to
What's the
pick
situation?
two. It's going to be completely random. You're going to push a button. It's going to be a random woman or a random man who shows up with a gun to watch your back. Which button you pushing, Ian?
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
I don't know.
You're not sure?
Just pick the guy and get it over with?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
what
right.
if Kamala Harris
That's
had become
right.
president? Who would have had the monopoly on force?
It's still always going to defer to the enforcement arm. They're always going to have the monopoly on
I'm
force.
sorry, you said they always look to their leader, right? They look to the one to lead them.
You
Who would
can
be
look.
leading them? A
You
woman?
can. Here's the thing. You can look to leadership unless you get to overthrow.
Well, now you're just saying that leadership doesn't matter, and that's dismantles your
Ian.
initial
No,
argument that people
not
have to
saying
appeal to
leadership doesn't matter. I'm saying that men always have an option of force to change leadership, and women
We're
don't.
benevolent.
Yeah, that
and
argument
we
is
don't
saying that
use
leadership
force.
doesn't
We
matter.
are
No,
Because
well,
we can just overthrow it
kind
anyway,
and
so it always
benevolent.
comes back
No,
to Crystal
Christian
wants
men
it.
can overthrow it,
I don't know.
not
We
women.
choose
Women
not
can also
to.
overthrow.
No, they can't.
People with
They
weapons
can't
can
even if
overthrow
they want
systems
to. No,
of humans.
not
Yeah,
women
Then
against
when's
men.
the last time women did that?
They've
Ever?
never
I
done
just
it.
said they can. I didn't say they
They
did.
can't.
I said they can.
They can't.
And
They don't have the physical
can't.
prowess
Kamala
to
had been
do
the
it.
president, and the issue for the drone, it would have been much easier for a female to take some physical. Like, I don't want to dominate this combo, but I think I'm right.
She's gonna use drones that men built
We know.
in order to
Perhaps.
dominate her enemies.
Yeah, that's adaptability.
Yeah, what's gonna happen
Just
is
appeal
this,
to men.
is that if men want to change the conditionals of the state they're in, they have the option to, and women don't. And that's a fact. And so the thing is that if men universally decide that they're going to women, there isn't a thing in the world women can do about it. But if portions of men decide that they're going men, there is something men can do about it.
But the thing, no.
Yeah,
you
that's
mentioned
the
this
most
too, and, like, men
historically
are not a
accurate
monolith.
fact on planet
Yeah,
Earth.
but you're saying if this total incapable
No,
thing,
no,
all
right
men
now
are a-
is.
You said
Not
if
if.
all men come together.
Not all men
This is
even.
your position.
If it's the case that in the Middle East, the Middle Easterners want women, didn't they already do that?
Yeah, but that's
What- how-
that's
how
a
come-
different.
why
You're talking
didn't
about
the-
the,
why
the
didn't the-
theocracy, the Iranian theocracy.
So yeah, well, any place you want to look at across the world where women are second-class citizens, can women do about that without appealing to men?
No.
I don't know, but that- the point
No,
that you
no,
made
no,
is
no.
that-
To answer the question, can women do?
It's basic.
You can answer the question any way I want to answer the question.
No.
Yeah, but you have to actually
No.
answer the
did.
question I'm asking.
No, I don't have to. I can
Yes.
answer whatever
Well, that's
I
fine.
want.
I mean, you can
however I want.
obfuscate.
If you don't like it, that's still my answer.
Oh, okay. Well, then your answer is I don't like your question.
You like gish gallop 3 questions in a row.
I didn't gish
No,
gallop
I'm sorry to
anything.
disprove your first
No,
point.
I'm
You asked
asking.
2 questions about
I'm only
the
asking
Middle
Very
Eastern
simple.
one
slave women.
question. I want actually
One
answered.
question.
Give it to me again.
Okay, the question I want answered is right this second in the Middle East. Okay, if
Women
women
have to
want
appeal to men to
determine
get out
to
of
get their rights back themselves,
oppressive
right,
rights,
without
yes.
appealing to men, can they do it or not?
They'd have to appeal
can't
to
do
like an
without
external authority.
men.
Similar to the American revolutionaries. They couldn't do it alone. They had to appeal to
country
the
of men.
French. Like when you're under the boot, it's hard to get out without appealing to. But it
Men.
doesn't have to be a man.
Other
It
men.
could be a queen,
Other women.
Queen Elizabeth or whatever. It could have been.
Or you gotta flip people. You gotta find defectors, like male defectors that are willing to fight on their side.
Males again.
More
Back to
men.
males and
Well, I mean, females make
And when
the
you
best
use the
spies.
Yeah.
cell
That's true.
phones
But
to
you're always
communicate on
appealing to
these
those pesky men
infrastructures,
for
and the
force,
men
and
are
there's
putting
nothing
the
you can do
cables
about
on
it.
the towers to
Every single
communicate,
time.
and men are
And
launching these
that's why force
satellites into
doctrine is an
space and
unbeatable
maintaining the
position
power
because it's the
infrastructure.
observable
You have
fact
to
of the
appeal to
world.
men.
That I agree with. Force doctrine, yeah, but
That's
I don't
just
think
what
it always
it
has to be a
is.
male in control of it.
But it is always
It
men
is
who are
by
in control of
nature.
it.
Queen Elizabeth is an example of someone that was a dominating
Stop
military
being-
force that was not
Of
a man.
who? A dominating military force made up of which sex?
Made up of men.
All of them.
Men.
Men and their wives, and they were
Men.
the dude go out on the
Like if we
boats.
look up, let's look.
I think
Can we
he's
find
he's
out
trolling
what
now.
percentage
Listen to him.
of her
trolling
military was men, real quick?
Yeah, but dude, earlier you were talking about how people appeal to their
Should I
leader.
refinance my
No.
The
car?
masculine, that you're always
I'm
going to
talking
appeal
about
to.
who can change the conditionals of their leader.
The
So I
argument
can
that
refinance
strength
and get a
gives
s-
you
I can-
primary control is a fallacy.
can save
It
like
is
$200
adaptability.
on my monthly
Strength,
payment.
What's the fallacy?
the stronger
See,
you
one's
are, the
paid
more
off,
likely you are to
and
be
the
in
other one-
control.
That's not fallacious.
No, strength has diminishing return.
Pretty
Yeah,
high
but
and
that's
it
not
also
a
makes
full-
you a target.
Seems
But
like
that's
a good
not
time
a
to
logically
refinance.
fallacious argument. That would be a proposition. And so the thing is that propositionally,
Or
there's no
increase the
fallacy there to
term.
make that statement, especially if it's observably true, and it is.
No.
Yes.
The strongest men are often the easiest to destroy.
Sure, by other men.
By guns,
Right.
by people with guns. I'm not talking
By other men. Either way,
combat,
by
dude.
other
It still
men.
exists.
Sometimes
but
without
the age
guns.
of like men can their woman
Maybe
until she
persuasion.
does what he says is gone. I mean, you technically can, but there are cameras on you now.
Do guns require hand strength?
A little.
Yeah. Do they require you to be able to carry a lot of equipment with you?
Ammunition,
Do you have to feed
maintenance.
yourself? Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. You don't have to.
training.
Well, yeah. If you're going to use
Ian
guns
was
for the
not
purpose
ready
of
for this
combat,
conversation. Who set this
you're
up?
going to be carrying a
Why'd you
kit.
do this to him?
You're going to be carrying a kit. You're
Give
going to
him
be
a
carrying
cup of
food.
coffee.
You're going to be carrying
Some
all
graphene.
sorts of
You're
other
talking about if you're in
equipment.
military
Not to mention
combat.
that
You just carry in Florida.
you're going to
it doesn't-
carry. You're going to carry
I don't think it'll be
300,
worth it. It's
400
only-
rounds of
you're only saving
ammunition. You're going to carry it in a
$500 in
chest rig.
interest.
Then you're going to carry a sidearm on top of that. Then you're going to have your helmet on. Then you're going to have body armor. You're going to have all
But the
this
monthly
stuff.
I'm
Payment.
talking about I'm talking about
Decrease.
carrying.
Yeah,
your
but
gun in
carrying
Florida,
term
bro.
in
in your
carrying-
belt,
or not.
on your
Even-
holster. That's all you got. I'm not talking about joining
but
the
that's
military.
not collective defense, or it's not, and it's not collective assault. That's not how that works.
All right, let's go to the other one.
In a vacuum, this rhetoric is used to justify authoritarianism,
Hang on, even if the rhetoric is used to justify authoritarianism, that still is not fascism.
according to you. I
No,
guess.
literally, according to all of the
yeah.
history around
How
what
long do you wanna
fascism
do
is,
this?
and not
Like-
only that, according to your own don't
so
don't be a
let's
snarky little.
go-
You took the debate. Suffer. So back to this.
I am.
Yeah, back
This
to
one.
and letters against enemies, or I'm sorry, is that
You know
how do
me.
pronounce that? Yeah, know me. Okay, gotcha.
I'd like to know what the grammatical errors were. That's kind of a if it's grammatical. I mean, I'm saying it. Is it because I'm saying it wrong? Is that what you're
So
saying?
this is live right now. This is
Take my emanation of cash. I will.
Nice.
Nostards list of top 100 debunked misconceptions of
beginning and the end.
Christianity.
Read Irenaeus. That's true.
Irenaeus.
Irenaeus was a
Emil
big
says,
debunker.
question for Jay. Can you give
Early
us
church
an
father.
undetermination of scientific theory that Gnostic has used stone to determine the age of the world?
The apparent
Gnostic is
age.
used?
Yeah,
Apparent age. of
can you
the
give us
world.
an
There's no dispute.
undetermination of scientific theory that Gnostic has used?
Yeah, I mean, I think the point there is just that, like, you could have a lot of data that two different theories or two different systems might conceivably make sense of. And so the point of underdetermination of data is just that more and more data isn't going to tell you which theory to go with. So the point is that you got to have some other kind
It's
of
irrelevant.
argument,
It's a different. It's a
beyond
category
just
error.
more
It's
data or
apparent
more
age
science
versus
papers to deal with the
actual
problem of the
age.
underdetermination of data.
It's a
Hence,
category error.
the phrase itself, underdetermination
All
of
right.
data, meaning that there's not enough data to tell you which paradigm or model is true. So I don't know how to explain that from his view.
No,
Project Vid for 10 says the problem is that either the one contains differentiation, so it isn't simple, or it contains none, so it can't explain multiplicity. The structureless source cannot yield a structured world.
Yep.
That's where the.
Did he say yup?
I think it's Plotinus who comes up with the idea of the emanations to solve that. The emanations means you can have a spark of the one and also be different from the one. So it's not just strict monism where we're all
I can't
we're all
listen
one,
to-
man. It's not that.
just
Question for, I'm sorry.
In a vacuum, this rhetoric is used to justify authoritarianism,
Hang on. Even if the rhetoric is used to justify authoritarianism, That still is not fascism.
According to you, I
No,
guess.
literally, according to all of the history around
How
what
long do you wanna
fascism
do
is,
this?
and not
Like-
only that, according to your own don't be a snarky little. You took the debate. Suffer. So back to this.
I am.
Yeah, back to this.
It's more funny
The
than
thing
suffering.
is-
I just
the
like.
thing
Are we
is,
not
is
going to talk
like,
about Trump at all?
we are talking about if Trump is a fascist.
No,
What's
but
the
things
debate?
that Trump has. The first claim is Trump is an authoritarian whose political project seeks to centralize and consolidate power by engaging with our laws in bad faith.
Sure, I concede the point.
2, he uses his position of power to vilify, intimidate, and oppress his opposition and those he designates as member of outgroups.
I see the point.
3, he builds, fuels, and justifies this movement with allusions to a once glorious, now desecrated past, which
Con 7 will be in Houston, Texas on Saturday, January 31st, 2026, and featuring some of
scholar Robert Paxton, whose functional analysis of the term redefined the entire field, and in fact, directly refutes the Italian definition of the term I've heard Andrew use before. In his essay titled The 5 Stages of Fascism, he says, the words of fascist intellectuals, even if we accept for the moment that they constitute fundamental philosophical texts, correspond only distantly with what fascist movements do after they have power. Early fascist programs are poor guides to later fascist policy. He goes on to argue that fascism isn't actually an ideology, rather it's a dynamic political process, based more in mobilizing passions than a formal doctrine. Specifically, he lays out the 5 stages of its growth, like a cancer metastasizing within the body politic. Stage 1 is simply the emergence of proto-fascist sentiments, a discrediting of liberal and democratic values in favor of nationalism. Of course, this has been ubiquitous in modern democracies for decades now. But in stage 2, this sentiment takes root in national politics, often by becoming a player in the scene through a political party. Its success here is dependent on the presence of weakness or deadlock, either a humiliated state seen as a nation in decline, or a polarized one, where the right refuses to accept the legitimacy of a growing left. Stage 3 is the acquisition of power, a milestone that many fascist movements are never able to reach. Interestingly, Paxton points out that this often happens through legitimate means, as fascists find common cause with conservatives, while downplaying the excesses conservatives would find threatening. The 4th stage is the exercise of power, though this is actually not unilateral. Instead, fascist leaders are often forced, at least initially, to govern in association with the conservative elites they've joined, creating a 4-way power struggle between the leader, his party, regular state functionaries like agency heads or judges, and traditional elites like churches, the army, and big businesses. This all culminates with stage 5, where fascism can go in one of 2 directions: radicalization or entropy. Either the leader or his party double down on the extreme goals they had temporarily hidden, or the traditional elites win out and the state settles into a more default authoritarianism. While complex, these frameworks make a few things clear. Fascism is a style of politics. It's an orientation towards the use of power, relying on messaging just as much as its actual governance. And importantly, it doesn't always win. That's obviously a lot to remember, so for this debate, I've tried to distill it into something more concise. Fascism is a reactionary, ultranationalist, authoritarian movement characterized by appeal to a mythical past, malicious delegitimization of institutions, and pursuit/use of power to suppress and vilify
That's
outgroups. It
the mythical
arises as a
past part.
response to
He's
perceived
pulling that
upheaval of
definition.
sociocultural
I've
norms,
read that before.
national embarrassment,
That's not
and
his.
/or elitism in society. This is a diagnostic definition of what we can call the fascist minimum, the true core of a
I got a
concept that
definition.
typically appears in many different forms. But to be
Wanna read
even
my
more
definition?
clear, I'll be making 3 affirmative claims today. 1, that Trump is an authoritarian whose political project seeks to centralize and consolidate power
Why
by
would that be
engaging
bad,
with our
though?
laws in bad faith. 2,
You said it's
that
in
he
bad
uses
faith.
his position of power to vilify, intimidate, and oppress his opposition
So what?
or
Is that
those he
bad?
designates as members of an outgroup. And 3, that he builds, fuels, and justifies this movement with allusions to a once glorious, now desecrated past, which can only be reattained through ultranationalism. I'm eager for Andrew to challenge these 3 claims and invite him to do so. But I am also curious about what his position is. Does he believe Trump is not a fascist, or is he just unsure? Because if it's the latter, I'm happy to convince him of my position. But if it's the former, I also have a lot of questions for him. Namely, that even if his definition is more narrow than mine, how could he not at least classify Trump as an authoritarian?
Oh, here's
fascistic
that dirty
tendency?
hallway.
The man who
Okay.
says, quote, I alone can fix it, who called for the
Okay.
termination of the U.S. Constitution and said, quote, he who saves his country
me
violates
pause
no
here.
law. The man who calls his opposition vermin and in speeches to our military calls them the enemy from within, while saying that undocumented immigrants poison the blood of our country.
All
Of course,
right.
he cloaks this darkness in the
Dirty
veil of
hall.
ultranationalism, making America great again, saying the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten no longer, and that, quote, the bedrock of our politics will be a total allegiance to the United States of America, and through our loyalty to our country, we will rediscover our loyalty to each other.
So
Maybe Andrew will
up
tell us not to
goes
believe our lying
to
near
the
denies,
temple.
or that Trump just says a lot of shit. Maybe he'll reference Article 2 to excuse virtually anything done with presidential powers, or downplay all the cases of lies, rights violations, and non-compliance as good faith mistakes or novel legal theories. But after watching a man get executed and hearing the federal government lie to our face about it, I'm frankly sick of hearing excuses and false equivalencies. I'm sick of being told to call stage 3 cancer a benign tumor just because the illness isn't terminal yet. So I hope this debate can serve as a
I wonder
detailed
how would
exploration of Trump's politics and
If you
an
do come this
interrogation
way,
of
is the
both
only
my three
option to
central
drop
claims
down?
and Andrew's
No,
claims to the
it's
contrary.
not.
I want to close with a quote from someone who seems to agree with my position here, Donald Trump, who said just months
Okay.
ago, I did get elected for crime, but I didn't get elected for what we're doing. This is many, many steps above. I want to thank Stephen Miller. I'd love to have him come up and explain his true feelings, maybe not his truest
Okay,
feelings.
so
that
I
might be going a
wonder-
little bit too far.
I wonder.
Thank
Is
you very
that
much
it?
for that opening, Adam. We're going to kick it over to Andrew for his opening as well. But first, quick housekeeping. Folks, if you didn't know, DebateCon 7 in Houston, Texas. It's less than a week away. It's Saturday, January 31st. Grab your tickets now. They're linked in the description box. It's going to be huge. We're expecting it to sell out. With that, we're going to kick it over to Andrew for his opening
Okay.
as well. Andrew, thanks for being with us. The floor is
Pound
all
it.
yours.
So
Damn
from
it.
up here,
You were the one. I thought you were gonna. I thought it was gonna be a. I was hoping it was gonna be a whole different thing, but it's just the normal TDS shit. So it's fine.
Yeah, Orange Man
This
bad.
is exactly what the debate I prepared for, unfortunately. But I had hope. I had hope, Con. As we engage in this debate on if Trump is or is not a fascist, there are a few things I want to point out in the outset of the debate. A few tactics which are going to be going on. If I were my debate opponent, I would fallaciously
Oh,
argue
wow.
that Trump isn't, quote, a full-blown fascist, but he's just mostly
So this
a
is if you
fascist.
do the
And I'm very certain this is where he's going to go with this. So I
Swamp
wanted to, in the outset, prepare a demonstration for why this sort of arguing makes no sense and should ultimately be rejected.
You come
By the way,
this
it's
way.
exactly what he did. I will do this by talking about chimpanzees and bananas. You see, a
And-
chimpanzee, by some accounts, shares 98% of the same DNA as a human being. Does that make a chimp 98% human? Do they seem 98% human to you, or do they seem like something else entirely? Here, I want to demonstrate this principle. This is a banana. It shares 60% of genes with human beings. Does
Is
it
it
seem like it's
60% human?
60% a human being, though? No, it doesn't. If I peel it, like I just did, and I eat it, am I engaging in 60% cannibalism? No, I'm not. Of course not. It's ridiculous on its face. But it's likely my opponent's going to try to tell you that Trump shares X amount of traits with fascists, exactly what he did. And so he's mostly a fascist. He's mostly a fascist, which is mind-boggling to me, but the standard fair argument of the idiot left.
Now, if I wanted to get out,
This
I go
needs
this
to be
way.
rejected immediately for the obvious reason, which is ideologies have overlap but differ greatly in what they actually are and
'Cause this
why they
goes
are or are not the thing.
To the dump
My
out.
opponent defines fascism, and I quote,
And then it goes down
fascism is a
here.
reactionary, ultra-nationalist,
Nice. I think
authoritarian
I'm getting
movement
it.
characterized by appeal to a mythical past, malicious,
I don't know about all that out
delegitimizing
there
of
yet. I'm
institutions,
still here.
in pursuit of power to suppress outgroups and vilify outgroups. It arises as a response to perceived upheaval of sociocultural norms, national embarrassment, or elitism in society. He bases this definition largely, he says, on fascist scholars like
Stay to the
Robert Paxton,
right.
Jason Stanley. I think that they would reject his definition, honestly, because they
But
don't
if you
consider
come down
Trump to be
here,
a
but if you
fascist.
keep the
They
camera
don't consider
rolling,
him
but
to
if
be
you
a
come down
fascist,
here,
which is hilarious. Okay, even Paxton post J6 right? When he said that he's fine with the label now, still doesn't consider Trump to actually be a fascist. Under his criteria of fascism, which I'll grant for the sake of argument, Sanders would be a fascist. Bernie Sanders, the guy this guy likes. If we took out ultra-nationalists, he would fit every criteria Khan listed. Sanders has an authoritarian movement. He wants to nationalize many industries away from the private sector. He would need state power to do so in a way which would obviously be oppressive to private interested parties and people. He appeals to and speaks positively of communist nations,
Yeah,
appeals
this
to
is
their past
how-
policies and glories. He delegitimizes institutions maliciously, like healthcare, police forces, ICE, all sorts of things. He wants to use state power to vilify the outgroup, millionaires and billionaires, and he wants power to do so. Now, is Sanders a fascist? Of course not. This is an example of how nebulous this broad definition can be used, because it's just silly. Would this make him 60% fascist? No. It's ridiculous, because the core pillar isn't there anymore. It's not there anymore for Sanders than it is for Trump. And that's this one pillar, ultranationalism. While I have a very different definition from Mr. Khan, I had to use a Star Trek reference of Khan, right, on what fascism actually is, and the pillars which hold it up, I would like to point out by his metric, Trump isn't a fascist and can't be because he isn't an ultranationalist.
That's
And
right.
without that, the whole pillar and House of Cards falls down.
So you just come down this way?
Nationalism is a belief your country should come first before other nations. Ultranationalism is the belief your nation comes
Oh.
before everything else. God, family, morals,
And
job,
before the
interests.
individual.
The state becomes the core of the ideology, and it is
So
an
you just go down
ideology,
this way.
not just a core of traits. Trump is barely even a nationalist, let alone an ultranationalist. MAGA, his
All
base
right,
of
so once
supporters,
you're out-
isn't asked or required to put Trump before God or family or other value systems they may
you
hold.
got a long
Not to
way to
mention,
go.
he
You
has
gotta stay to the
some
left, though.
anti-nationalist policies
I
like
came out
gold
this
cards
way
to buy
before and stay to the
citizenship
right.
for foreign nationals, or
stay to
600,000
the
deported
left.
Chinese students, or hundreds of thousands of Indians brought in for cheap labor, or any number of different anti-nationalist policies that I can point at. Tons of policies which Trump puts forward, and I can argue they're barely nationalistic at all, but certainly isn't an ultra-nationalist, and without
Or
that pillar, he can't be
I
a fascist.
come this way.
Now, I'm making a positive case here, to be fair, and so is my opponent. I'm saying Trump is not
No,
a
I don't think I
fascist.
can
I'm
get up
saying
there.
he is. So I want to be charitable there. This is not a, I get to stay on the fence and just pepper him about his definition. He gets to interrogate me as well. That's fair, right? I'm happy, on demand, to provide my definition for fascism, its cores, philosophy of the third position, if you would like. I spent a lot of time in my debate career arguing against the tenets of the third position, i.e. fascism. What it is, its philosophy, its originators like Giovanni Gentili, Mussolini, others, the ideas of corporatism and the fasci, what that represents and why it represents that. What's happening here in actuality is this. The left and progressives like my opponent, in general, they want to use morally infused language to demonize their opposition by comparing
right.
them to Nazis and
That's right.
fascists, which they think are synonyms. They want all of the horrors of fascism to be laid at the feet of their political opposition, even if the political opposition doesn't share the ideology. And if they don't share the ideology, they just come up with new ways to define the ideology so they can make them
So
share
does
it.
that connect?
It's not that Trump is a fascist, you see. It's that the Holocaust happened and Mustache Man has the same ideology as Trump. So he's like them. And his allies in Italy and the fascists did the same thing too. This is what gives them the perceived moral high ground in which to resist the evil fascists. And that's all this has ever been. Purely performative, all lies, which are going to totally fall apart when I put this to the question. Watch. And with that, I'm happy to get into this. Now, I have each definition for semantic certainty that you could ever want.
Okay, it's a
You
little
want
loop.
ultranationalism. You want definitions
What
for
if I go a
anything in
different
my
way?
position. I've got them on hand. We're ready to go. Hope you got the same thing so that we can skip the semantics and get right to the meat of it, right? But
Oh,
yeah,
what?
I'm with that. I'm ready to get right into this.
You got it. With that, we'll jump into the open dialogue. First, folks, if you didn't know, if you can't make it to DebateCon 7 this Saturday in Houston, Texas,
So
you
this
can watch it
literally
live
will
from home. It's a
go
perk for our Final Word channel membership
out a
tier.
couple
Check out
ways.
those memberships right now by clicking the join button. And also, if you haven't yet, hit the like button, whether you're watching here or elsewhere. We're going to kick it into the open
No.
dialogue. And gentlemen, do I understand you guys are cool with
The only way you can
debating
go.
each of your definitions in terms of does Trump fit the definition of
Well, each of our positions, my position would be that Trump is not a fascist. My opponent is saying that he is a fascist. And so we'll be debating from both of those angles. I don't care if the front half of the debate is loaded against me or against you. It doesn't really matter. I think it's fair to pepper me about what I think fascism is, just like I'm about to pepper you with what you think fascism is.
Sure.
Okay.
Either of you have a preference on whose definition we use first?
Well, let's go with Khan's. He's the one who's making the positive claim that he is the thing, and then we can get into mine. Or we can, even as we go, you can ask me if you'd like. That's fine.
I'm curious, Andrew. Can you just quickly share your broad-based definition of fascism that you'd use as like a shorthand?
Yeah. So fascism is an ideology that proposes corporatist, palingenetic, and ultranationalist state. That's what fascism is.
Okay. I just want to start off by addressing a few of the things you said in your opening statement. So
yeah, hang on, real
yeah.
quick, because I want to get some semantics out of the way, if you don't
Go
mind,
ahead.
just to make
Yeah.
sure that we got this right. Ultranationalism is defined by you as what?
I would say that ultranationalism frames greatness of nations as a zero-sum game, where a nation's glory is derived from dominating other countries.
I have a quote here from those original fascists. I want to see if you will agree to this. Ultranationalists, from their view, all within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state.
Is this an ideological thing or a descriptive
Yeah,
thing?
of course it's ideological.
My definition of fascism isn't even ideological, so I would reject that off
okay,
rip.
well, okay, how's it not ideological?
Like I said, it's a
ideological.
socio-political phenomenon. That is how Robert Paxton and Jason Stanley describe it. And just to quickly clarify there...
It's not just how they describe it.
Hold on. They both call Trump a fascist. Robert Paxton says he doesn't use the word fascist because he finds it's basically colloquially lost all meaning. But after January 6th, Robert Paxton did say that Trump now meets the characteristics of fascism.
Nope.
And Jason Stanley has been saying the same for years.
No, well, first of all, Stanley's a political hack. Paxton is serious.
Of course you're going to say that.
No, so hang on. Paxton is serious. He's not a political hack. Like, that guy is an actual, like, he has studied fascism. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. Stanley, yeah, he's a political hack. He's a leftist. Come on, man. Paxton, though, he's more politically neutral. But you're basically operating off Paxton anyway, not really Stanley, at least by the definition that you're giving. Paxton himself did not actually say this. You're making this up. Here's what actually happened. Paxton has been saying for years that Trump does not fall under the criteria of being a fascist. Post J6, he said he was fine with him being labeled that. He was very careful with his words, though. He didn't actually say there's anything new here which makes Trump fall under this label. Only that he was fine now with the label. It had some utility use.
Did you not read his Newsweek article?
I did. Well, not his Newsweek. It wasn't Newsweek.
He wrote a piece in Newsweek after January 6th where he said, I'm now calling Trump a fascist.
Well, hang on. Let me pull the article up here.
Sure.
1 second. We'll make sure that we have it correct. But yeah, that was my interpretation from it because of the very first line. Read the very first two lines. It's all vibes and feelings, bro. Just read it. Read it out loud.
Lines of what?
Read the first two lines of the article that you're referencing.
Sure, let me pull it up.
Yep, pull it up.
I'm curious why I pulled that up. Where are you deriving that you didn't call Trump a fascist?
Well, he was very cautious.
So I don't
with
want to
his
go this
language
way.
in this article.
So it's literally titled...
I think I did
Hold on, let me
before.
make sure, by
It
Robert
doesn't matter what it's
Paxton.
titled. It matters what
I've
it's
don't want
said.
hesitated to
to.
call Trump. I've hesitated to call Donald Trump a fascist until now.
Yeah,
I
that's
resisted
what
for
they
a long
are.
time applying the fascist label to Donald J. Trump. He did indeed display some telltale signs in 2016. I mean,
And then I
let
go
me read the
this
whole
way.
thing, or
No,
he goes on to say
just
he's now.
right in the first
And then
line,
this
right?
way.
I've hesitated to label Donald Trump a fascist, even though he had telltale signs,
Past
right?
tense.
Yeah. What was the
Hesitated
new,
past tense.
What's
right?
the new criteria according to your definition that Trump fell under after J6? What is it?
I believe he said the leveraging of political violence. I can find specifically in
Yeah.
the
What about
article.
you though? You have a specific definition here.
Mhm.
Did you agree with Paxton that
Oh,
before
okay. So
J6
I
Trump
would
wasn't a fascist?
I would think
drop
that Trump was
in-
probably in stages 2 or 3 of fascism prior to January 6th, and I think after that we started arriving between stages 3 and 4.
So he was at at a certain percentage.
It's not percentages,
We're back
it's
to the
stages.
argument from Banana.
It's a cute analogy, but the biology of a fruit is not analogous to a political
Donald
movement.
Trump hasn't met any of the stages of fascism. What stages? According to the historic definition of fascism, What stages are you talking about?
The ones that I read in my opening statement?
Yeah, fascism was a response to socialism. That's what it's a response to. It's a third position. It's a third position.
You're describing one iteration of fascism.
No, that's the only iteration of it. Show me where else.
According to you, but
name
this
another
isn't even
fascist
settled,
nation besides
this isn't even
Mussolini's
settled in
Italy.
academic circles.
Well, then I don't want to hear you say it is.
I'm not. I'm giving you
Great.
my definition, which
And
I
I'm
think is
telling you
based
your
on scholars who are better.
Your definition
and
is.
you're being pedantic about it.
I'm using the core arguments from the architects who made fascism.
And I just
what
told
you're doing
you
is
why
saying,
Robert
here's-
Paxton said that's dumb to
Here's
do.
what you're doing. You're saying, I'm using the interpretation of other people for the source material. I'm saying, I read the fucking source material.
You clearly didn't, though.
I clearly did. What do you want to know about
You literally
actual
claimed that Robert
originating
Paxton does
fascism?
not think Donald Trump's a fascist.
He doesn't. There's no new criteria added.
Literally, it's not about new criteria. It's about Trump's behavior changing such that he now
He said
falls
that
under
he's
a
now
definition.
fine with the label. That's it.
And I can,
Oh,
also,
here
if
we
you're
are.
talking about, okay, this is just,
Wow.
what do you call him? Giovanni Gentile is the guy who describes what fascism
Crazy.
is. And you think Robert Paxton is valid here. He himself has said the words of fascist intellectuals, even
Wait a
if
second,
we
wait a
accept.
second. Hang on.
Yeah.
You're conflating a couple things.
Okay.
I agree that Paxton is a popular scholar for fascism, namely because he basically is trying to give you guys a name the trait argument and leftists love him. Not that I cede that his authority on
You have
fascism.
to poison the well with that.
Not that I cede that his authority on fascism is correct, because it has nothing to do ultimately with third positionism, and I completely reject it based on the definition that I gave for fascism, which is 3 core pillars, and you need to have all 3 of them there. Starting with yours, though, your definition, how's Trump an ultra-nationalist?
I actually have it written down right here. So he, hold on, there we go. He builds, fuels, and justifies his movement with allusions to a once glorious, now desecrated past, which can
It's not
only be
ultranationalism.
reattained. Can I finish? And you'd hear the word ultranationalist in there. He builds, fuels, and justifies his movement with allusions to a once glorious, now desecrated past, which can only be reattained through ultranationalism. He talks about the return of a golden age of the nation and an era of decline that went after
Yeah,
it.
you're talking about what's called paleogenetics here.
That's
you're
from
talking
a
about
different scholar,
paleogenetic.
Roger something.
Yeah, you're
That's a
talking,
different
but that's
scholar.
what it is.
The
It's
myth of
paleogenetics.
national
So the thing
rebirth.
I
is,
didn't use the word
like,
paleogenetic.
you don't
there's
need to,
overlap
but that's
between
what it's
definitions
describing.
here.
What you're describing there is not ultranationalism.
I just want to be clear. There's plenty of overlap between different
What
definitions.
does
here,
that
right?
have to do with ultra-nationalism, dude? Nothing you just said has anything to do with ultranationalism.
I already answered your question
hang on,
earlier.
Stop, bro. Stop. Let me finish. It's
Okay, then don't ask a
tautological.
question. Don't let me answer.
It's tautological. Okay, what you're doing is you're saying the way that
Cat
Trump
is dog.
ultra-nationalistic is because he says things that can only be achieved through ultranationalism. That's not telling me how he's.
I think you're
how
misunderstanding my
he is
claim.
well, then tell me how he's.
So ultranationalism is sort of an aesthetic or a communication strategy in this case, where his governance frames American greatness as a zero-sum game.
That's
For
not what-
America to be great, it must maximally use its power in a might makes right framework.
That's just nationalism.
How would you distinguish? When does it become
I already
ultra?
told you, but I'll tell you again.
When does it become
right?
ultra? Where's the line for you?
I'll tell you exactly where the line comes in.
Yeah.
When it becomes that all loyalty is to the state, that's ultranationalism. When everything goes all within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. The whole point of fascism was to utilize ultranationalism, loyalty to the state, to introduce corporatism. It couldn't
Oh,
work
you know
without
what?
Do you think
Hang on.
ultranationalism?
Hang on.
If I
Because
was coming
ultranationalism
back for
itself,
in-game,
right, is not
I
corporatism
do
is not even
need-
possible absent that. So threshold breaker is not. So let me ask you the same question in reverse. When does
If I am coming
ultranationalism
back
become
here
just
for
regular
in-game,
nationalism?
I mean, it's
I do
obviously a
not
blurry
wanna
line. There's not going to be
go
one
don't
this
where
way.
like, oh, now all of a sudden it's no.
So
we
you
can
don't know?
talk
So
about
I do
specific
need to
examples that would illustrate where the line is.
Stash.
I don't know if you want me to give you a one-sentence
What?
summary of a topic that scholars have been debating for decades. You want
Well,
me to
hang on,
hold
hang
it
on.
here for
You can't say to me, Andrew, where's the threshold breaker? And I give it to you. And I ask you the same question in reverse. Where's your threshold breaker?
No, because
You go,
you're
I
the
don't
one
know.
who took issue with the
I don't
threshold.
know.
I didn't say
I think
anything
I do
about
need to
thresholds. You're the one who took
Ah.
issue with it.
You
It's
did.
tough.
You said
You brought
You
up-
asked specifically this question. When does nationalism become ultranationalism? I
Yes,
gave you
and
the
why
exact
did I ask
criteria.
that question?
I gave you because you
Why did I
haven't
ask
told
that
me what
question?
ultranationalism
No, because
is.
you said Trump. That's nationalism, not ultranationalism.
Yeah, that's nationalism. Correct.
To
so
you.
what's the difference? Well,
Hold on,
how is
hold
it?
on.
What's the difference
I
between
just have
nationalism and ultranationalism?
Maybe we're talking about different things here. Do you think ultranationalism cannot be a rhetorical strategy? It's just an ideology?
Yes.
So it can't be a rhetorical strategy.
Well, I mean, you can allude. Anything could be a rhetorical strategy.
Okay, so when I'm talking about fascism, I'm talking about number one, how it behaves, and number two, how it presents itself.
Yeah, but
through
that doesn't mean it
propaganda.
is the thing.
What is
That
that?
is where ultranationalism comes into it.
Is that a
Just
bow?
like the mythic past he describes, I don't believe there was actually a mythic past, Andrew.
So
but
what's
that's under
ultranationalism?
justification.
What is it? What is
I
it?
already told you.
You
It
haven't.
frames American greatness as a zero-sum game. For America to be great, it must maximally use its power in a might makes right framework.
And what's
That
the
is how
difference
it's
between
framed.
that and nationalism?
It's not a zero-sum game necessarily. It
So
doesn't
what's
take
the
things to
difference?
that
So
extreme.
is there a difference or not?
Zero-sum game?
Is there a difference or not?
Yes,
I'm
I
not
think
asking if it's zero-sum.
ultra-nationalism takes nationalists into zero-sum territory, which changes how it's going to behave on a world stage and
No.
starts overlapping with imperialism as well.
No, ultranationalism from a fascistic point of view.
From your
It-
fascistic point of view.
From
your
from
definition.
Giovanni Gentile, the orchestrator of fascism. the
This is like
inventor of
asking
it.
a cult member how cults work and using his ideology to define like the science of cults. Like it just doesn't make sense to take
What are you
one
talking
iteration
about?
of fascism in Italy and say this is how we define all fascism now. Like why
No,
can't
no,
we have
no,
a
no, 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 no.
diagnostic framework? here?
Ultranationalism has to be distinct from nationalism somehow. When you say the things that you just said can be attributed to nationalism, here's why, and not ultranationalism. Let's look at the distinctions here. When you say you're a nationalist, you're putting your nation before other nations. That is a zero-sum game.
Not necessarily, no.
Most of the time, it's a zero-sum game. The idea here is if it's good for me, right? I'm going to do. If there's two choices presented to me, this one will be good for you and me.
No,
or
but
this
what
one over, hang on,
ultranationalism
stop,
says-
bro, stop, bro. Or this one over here will be much better for me than you, right? Then you take that one. That's usually nation first. Ultranationalism threshold delineator here is that the state itself becomes a body, and that's where
That's
the
right.
allegiance and
Over the-
loyalty
over
is.
the
That's
individual.
ideology is to the state.
That's
From
the ideology.
From the people's perspective, that's what actual ultranationalism
Right.
is. You're talking about just nationalism, the idea of putting your nation above others. So what?
Putting
Yeah,
your
he's a
nation above
nationalist,
others
okay.
is different than saying that every instance of another nation being great is somehow subtracting from the finite amount of greatness that exists, and America must seize this greatness. If someone else is doing well, it must mean we've been ripped off as a country.
Oh,
that
is
is
that
one step
right?
above just nationalism.
So what is? Well, let me ask you this: when you say it's fundamentally un-American, which you say all the time, what does that mean?
When did I
when
say
you,
it's fundamentally un-American?
When you say things are fundamentally un-American, this is
When
this
did I
is an
say that?
un-American thing.
When did I say that in this entire
I don't
debate?
remember the exact debate, but you did say that that sounds un-American.
Oh, you're saying at some point in the past, okay.
Yeah, that's un-American. What does that mean?
It
When you
depends
say
on the
it's
context.
un-American.
It depends on the context in which
Well-
I said it. I'm
well, are
probably
you-
alluding to like liberal democratic values of the
So
Constitution.
you're alluding to some
Broadly.
like previous time when you think things were more American?
I
I'm
wanted
alluding
to
to values.
stop raining.
You're so ideology.
Values. I mean, ideology can be kind of like a formalization of values, but
I don't
they're
I
not
don't
necessarily
even,
synonymous.
I think they are. I don't know how you get to values without ideology.
Okay, you can just have them as like a sort of like a what do you call it? Like the premise of what you believe. You can just have.
I have values. I have
inherently.
values. What's the framework?
Do you have to be ideological to have values?
Yeah, I think you do.
So people that don't have an ideological framework, they don't value anything, they have no preferences, or
Yeah, usually they're called moral anti-realist or nihilist. So yeah,
no, but they would
generally
still
don't.
descriptively have values. They have preferences. They choose to do certain things over others.
Well,
they value certain things. over
Yeah,
others.
that's an
if they have
inconsistency on their
preferences,
worldview.
Then we're getting into ideological territory and dogmatic territory.
You don't
Well, an
get to
ideology
claim
is going to be like internally
need
consistent,
for
usually, and
consistency.
codified or
Yeah,
formalized.
so if you
version
say
of
I have a
values.
preference for things I like, that's the highest value. Now we're in
It's not
dogmatic
really an
territory.
ideology.
That is really an ideology.
Totally an ideology.
Okay, I don't know if
It
we
is
want to disagree
really
to disagree here. This
100%
is
an
like we're going in
ideology.
circles on this. I
But
don't know.
anyway, that aside, the distinction here is on ultranationalism versus nationalism.
Yeah.
The whole idea for ultranationalism, within all of the framework in World War II especially,
Yeah, I understand
right,
your.
was not just with Germany, right? It's 1,000-year millennia. It's going to be the Third Reich 1,000 years into the future from Benito Mussolini. This is going to be futurism, man. We're going to be Italians with cool cars, and we slash each other's faces with swords and shit. We love this stuff, and we have part of this is going to last for 2,000 years. That's what it's going to be. It's an ideology which is formatted around the loyalty and body of the state being adhered to as the highest value of the citizen. That is ultranationalism.
That's how
Trump
you're
does not
defining it.
run. Trump does not run anything with, well, you can't give me a threshold breaker. You just say, I don't know.
Wait, do you think that two things can't be distinct if there isn't a very like
I think
solid
you're not
line in
making a
between them?
case. You're not making a case though
No,
for how
but
these are
the-
distinct.
The supposed issue you're trying to point out in my logic, I'm just trying to clarify if you'd hold that standard in other situations. Do you think if there's like a blurry delineation or a blurry distinction between two concepts, that means we ought to call them the same thing?
Not always, unless we have something which is conceptually a delineation which is provable.
Do you accept that there can be ambiguity in delineations of concepts that are very
Sure.
closely related?
Yeah, of course.
That's all I'm saying.
That's part of my argument, but it has nothing
Part
to
of
do
my
with,
argument as well.
has nothing to do with this argument.
Has
What you're
everything to do
asking me
with
to
this
do, what you're asking me to do is in a vacuum tell you if there can be overlap or ambiguity between concepts or relations of ideology.
So I guess not in a vacuum in
Hang
real
on.
life as well.
I concede that that is the case,
Uh-huh.
right? But in this case, I'm not conceding that. So do you agree with me that while I can concede that that can be the case,
Mm-hmm.
that it can also be the case where there is something which is distinct that
Yes,
can
and
be
I think
pointed
that
to?
the
Hang on,
last
hang on,
place
hang on,
we
hang on.
find that
Let me
is
finish the
social
question. Let me
sciences.
finish the question.
Yeah.
That there is delineations which can be made between ideologies that can be easily pointed to, like Marxism, for instance. I can give you a very easy delineation between Marxism and other forms of ideology. Stateless society could be one of those, right? Things that we could agree to as being distinct, right? And what does a stateless society mean, and how we get into that. In this case, you're not actually telling me where it is that how we get to the ultra-nationalist thing.
Multiple times.
No,
Two
you didn't.
right
You just said there's ambiguity.
I'm glad you brought up the Marxism example. So yeah, you can probably give me easy distinctions between Marxism and like capitalism, but giving me distinctions between different types of Marxism becomes a lot more blurry. So it is true, there are many situations where delineations can be pretty binary, and it doesn't have to be
I wonder if I can
overcomplicated.
get the other
The
hat.
last place where that would be true is the
Or the
social
other-
sciences.
Okay,
it's
tell
on the
me that.
biology of
I just want to
the-
hear.
Because then I can wear other
between ultranationalism and
I
glasses.
told you, making it a zero-sum game multiple times. Like I don't know
Yeah,
how
but
many
how
times
is that different than just regular nationalism?
Regular nationalism doesn't necessitate zero-sum frameworks.
Okay, give me an example of that.
Like regular
Of
nationalism?
a nationalistic policy that's not putting the nation first in a zero-sum category.
So it's putting the nation first, but not in a zero-sum way.
Okay, give me an example.
This
of
could
that.
be like doing protectionist policies.
How can you
on-
be putting the nation first unless that was a zero-sum? How does the nation come first if you're compromising on the nation coming first?
What are you asking?
How are you putting the nation first if you're willing
Yeah.
to compromise on putting the nation first?
What do you mean willing to compromise on putting the nation?
Well, if it's the case, you agree with me, nationalism is putting your nation first, right?
it's kind of a short definition, but okay.
Yes? So
I
if
guess-
that's the case, how do you put your nation first if you're willing at the same time to not put your nation first? If you're willing at
Question
the
is
same
like,
time...
unrelated to what I've
No,
been
it's
saying.
completely related. How can you
How
put
is it related?
How can you put your nation first? Because you're saying that nationalism is nation 1st but it's not zero sum. I'm arguing that it has to be zero sum or it can't be nation first. That's the zero sum. The nation comes first.
Zero sum meaning that if the nation's doing well, that means that other countries have to be doing worse in proportion to how much better the nation's
That's
doing.
not. Well, wait.
That's
Wait
what zero
a
sum
second.
is.
Wait a second. It's also zero sum to say your nation comes first. That's a zero sum categorical statement, right?
It doesn't have to be zero sum.
Why? Well, then how can
Your
you, how
nation
can you
can be
always,
first, while
Is-
other
does your
nations are also
nation
doing very
always-
well.
But does your nation always come
Hold on,
first?
you understand that like even people that believe in like multilateralism and like
sure.
cooperation internationally, they can also wanna put
Does
their
your nation
first.
always come first?
What are you even talking about? right
In nationalism, are you always putting your nation first?
now? Yeah, broadly speaking, yes.
Are you uncompromising in putting your nation always first?
All right.
It depends on what we're talking about in
think
the
I'm done.
specific iteration
Yeah, it
of it,
works
because
for
you're
it.
defining it as an
Well, then you're
ideology.
not. Then it's
No,
P
because
and not P.
the
It's a
issue here-
philosophical
the issue
contradiction.
The issue is you're trying to debate me on the ideology of ultranationalism, and then I'm defending the rhetorical strategy of ultranationalism.
I don't know. This is not a great pivot for you.
No, it's
Is
what I'm
it?
saying since the
Is it
beginning
the
of the debate,
case?
Andrew.
Yeah, but it's incoherent. This is incoherent. It's P
You're
and not
making
P.
it incoherent by going in circles and asking
It's
the same
P
question
and
over
not
and
P.
over.
Well, because what you just said is incoherent. If it's P and not P. So the idea here is, Andrew, nationalism means you always put the nation first. Always, right? Right?
Yeah, but then the question is, what does putting the nation first mean?
Okay, hang on. If you're always putting the nation first, then it's already zero sum because it's an always statement.
Wait, what do you
It's
think zero sum
always.
means?
It means no compromise, no negotiation, no nothing, right?
No,
Isn't that
zero sum means there's like a finite amount in the pie, and that if someone's getting more of the pie, that necessarily means that someone else cannot get more of it, right? So if
Wait
America's
a
doing
second.
better, Yeah.
Hang on. Let's back up.
Uh-huh.
You think that zero? Let's just make sure that we got this right. A zero-sum game.
Mm-hmm.
What are we referencing there?
I'm referencing a situation where one person doing better necessarily means that someone else has to do worse.
Okay, and so the nation, the